everybody, and welcome to the Fart Fetish Podcast once again. It's 2024, and this is that podcast where we seek to find the answers to, what is fart fetish? Where might it come from? How is it enjoyed? And what are the people like who have this fetish, and other fetishes too? We do this on every first Friday of the month, on almost all major podcast platforms, and at fartfetishpodcast.com. And if you like fart erotica, well, I've got some of that on thefartcloset.com. You can support me here at the podcast just by checking out all the free stories, captions, and more at thefartcloset.com. And now, you're all well aware of these two on the podcast. It's Dil and Jules joining us together here once again. We're going to catch up with the both of them and also talk about OnlyFans, AI technologies, alpha cash masters, and male self-image, among other things. It's a great and at times tongue-in-cheek episode we have here today on the Fart Fetish Podcast. At Dil's request and for his privacy, I have altered his voice for this interview. Dil and Jules, thank you so much for being here once again. It's really a pleasure to have you both on a second time together. Obviously, you've both been on separately once before. And I think the coolest news maybe for everyone, the whole show, the community in general, is you two actually met up in person, which is super cool. Can you talk about how that came about and talk more about that? Why don't we start with Jules, as if I didn't say that off camera before, as if we're going to start with you.
I think that it was actually kind of interesting because after we did our recording the first time, me and Dil just kind of talked on our own for about 2 hours afterwards and just talked about how I was coming to Ireland for school and that he was traveling and that our paths were just going to interlock anyways. And then we planned our trip from that.
That's really awesome. Dil, do you have a different, I mean, obviously probably not a different perspective, but do you have like a different, how was your view of that meeting and that connection, to make that happen?
It was pretty much what Jules just described. Like, after the first time we were on the podcast together, we talked for a long time after, and we kind of we got along well, and I can't remember exactly how it came up, but I think it was that situation of like, oh, we're going to be near each other soon enough, so like, let's organize something to get together and see what happens. And then it happened. So yeah, that's pretty much what it was, and it was really enjoyable. It was an interesting experience. It was cool to kind of meet someone like that, as in like through this method, this way of meeting someone. Yeah, it was interesting.
That is very interesting. Well, and I think one of the things that I find interesting about it from the outside is, I mean, the initiative really of maybe you knew about each other in the community, whether more ethereal or more specifically, I don't know if those are the right words to use, but I think people get the tone. But to actually, and you came on the podcast together, had an interest in doing that. And then, to actually follow that up with an actual in-person meeting. I think that's something that a lot of people don't do and won't do. But perhaps it was merely the driving force, the interest in seeing and meeting each other based off that connection, that kind of hitting it off, as it were. Is there anything that you found out maybe about each other or yourselves in meeting up? Did you and maybe going deeper into that, did you find yourself if you played or whatever, establishing roles or paradigms? This is something that Jules talked about specifically. When you meet up, you do wind up establishing roles and paradigms. Not even meet up. When you have play in physical, you will typically or generally establish a role, because those are the roles you typically feel comfortable doing, whether you enjoy both in fantasy or not. the role you take in a physical, play is the role you're most comfortable with. Like similarly, I probably wouldn't be a dom, but like I definitely have dom empathy because I've written a lot of stories and stuff. I have an understanding, I suppose, of the dom perspective. um Anyways, let's start with Dill. Do you to that question, did you feel like you found anything interesting about yourself or each other in that meeting?
Okay, so first, I think I should just clarify, put it out there that yes, we did meet, but funny enough, we didn't actually end up like doing anything. Um, just because of the circumstances surrounding it all, mainly due to the fact that we were both traveling with other people. Um, so like that opportunity didn't really come up. In fact, we barely got a chance to even talk about this side of things. It was really weird in that sense. Um, in that like we both know that like this side of things is there. Um, but it never really came up just because we never really got a chance for it to come up. Um, in terms of learning things about myself, I think it really cemented the whole fact that when it comes to um, meeting people, I'm very much one of those people that um, likes to have that connection outside of the fetish space. And like I feel like I've always been like that. I like to get to know people beyond uh beyond this one aspect of their lives. And like I feel like a lot of people don't understand that like, yeah, this is just one aspect of your life. It's not your whole thing. Like don't make this your whole existence. Yeah, like when it comes to meeting people, like you just have to recognize that as well. It's not um there's more to people than just this. And it's really nice when you get a chance to see that in someone else, especially in person. Because like Jules wasn't the only person that I met during these travels. I met up with a couple of other people as well. And it was the same kind of thing. It's like I got to hang out with them. I got to, you know, explore their cities with them, and like it was fun. And like that makes it more fun. It makes it more enjoyable, kind of getting to know them outside of all the fetish stuff.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. And that was my apologies for asking these two questions together because I didn't mean to imply that the finding something interesting about each other or yourselves had to come from fetish play or anything like that. Definitely think just the experience of meeting someone outside of your home, outside of your in general, meeting someone out in the world, especially when traveling. I think there's a lot that can be learned about ourselves that way as well. What about you, Jules? What did you feel about that experience?
Um, I I really liked it. It was fun to finally meet someone that I've met online in person that I haven't already known before. Um, as for myself and learning is that I'm pretty much how I am on here, how I am with my friends, I am pretty much like that no matter who I meet. And that's kind of a fun thing is that I'm always unapologetically myself, even if sometimes it can annoy people. But I think it's endearing in that regard. But also, the people that we traveled with were great. Like my friend kind of knew that I was meeting up someone from this podcast that because we are very open with each other, so we kind of know that aspect about each other. So I found out later that they were trying to get our two travel companions away so that we could have one-on-one time, but then it just didn't ever work out. But yeah, it was nice to just see people and to explore a wonderful new place together. Well, a place that I'd never been before and how fucking beautiful it was and the fact that I want to go back there one day just to experience it again. It was just in itself wonderful.
That's awesome. That sounds really awesome. Have either of you shared your about this meeting with I think probably Jules, but have either of you shared about this meeting with your friends, whether in the fetish or other social circles, and what have the reactions been? Let's start with Jules since we were just talking to you.
I don't have a lot of friends within the fetish community at all, but like, no, my entire like inner circle of friends knew about this meetup and were kind of like really, well, they're weary because again, when you're meeting someone online, they're worried that they're a serial killer and that they'll murder you.
Sure.
But other than that, they were all really excited with the fact that because I was super excited, even friends that I made at my school right now were like, oh, how when I came back from like our Christmas break, they were asking how it went and like if everything was good. So everyone was pretty much excited and happy that it happened in general, in my friend group at least.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What about you, Jules? I know you're a little you have more connection. You have a more community in the fetish. Specifically, have you shared about this? And specifically, was anyone encouraged to hear about your meetup?
Go on, Jules, talk about it.
Oh, did I say I'm sorry? Did I say I'm
Yes,
sorry?
you said Jules.
My apologies. And we were just talking to Jules. Okay, Jules, go ahead. No. Dill, what about you? Have you shared anything about your meeting? Because you do have a little more connection in the fetish, or a little more community, I suppose, or a community of fetishists. So have you shared about this meeting so far?
Um, yes and no. It's I like yes in the sense like yes, I've told people, oh, I met up with this person, but no in the sense of like I didn't really go beyond that. I didn't like talk about what we did or what we didn't do, and like no details, no specifics. Um, it was like, oh, you're meeting this person, that's cool, great, let's talk about something else now. Like that's just kind of how the reaction was in amongst the people that I've told, and like uh I'm kind of opposite to Jules in the sense of like I am not open with my um vanilla friends when it comes to this stuff. It's like so this this kind of stuff only stays in my uh other circles. Um so yeah. Also, just going off what Jules said before about, his friends being a bit wary about meeting people online. If any of you all are out there and you're like planning to meet up with someone, obviously be safe about it. Uh, like for example, Jules and I, when we first met, we met at a very public, like a really big train station slash shopping center. Um, so take the risk out of everything. Just putting that out there for the people that need it.
I'm sorry, you didn't meet at the like dark basement of like a disco club, or like these
I
are
tried
what?
my best.
Okay. I'm glad. I'm glad you tried. I'm glad you tried. It's good music. It's worth it. Um, do either one of you have anything more to share about your meetup? And I don't want to like be like, oh, well, let's wrap this up. Like I'm totally open to talk about this as much as you'd like, but I don't want to hang on this either if either of you um don't have anything to add.
I think for me, I know there are a lot of people out there that kind of it seems to be actually there's kind of a divide. There are some people that don't want to meet up with other people. There are some people that want to meet up with other people, but only for the fetish stuff. Um, and there are some people that want to meet up with other people, but just can't. And like a lot of people have complained to me at length about how they just can't find people to meet with. Um, so I'm just gonna put it out there that like, you know, we're a small community ish kind of. And it's like you're not gonna. It's very hard to find people out there. So like sometimes you just have to, make these connections. You might have to travel a little bit, which is worth it. Like because especially if you're traveling anyway, which was kind of my circumstance. Um, But yeah, meeting people is fun, and if you get the chance, you should do it. Definitely.
That's awesome. Jules, do you have anything to add to that?
I just want to say, just even if you want to do fetish side stuff, just make friends. Just be a nice person to people and show interest in other people's lives, and then maybe based on level of comfort and level of things and level of trust mainly, you might be able to meet up to do that type of stuff. But I think first and foremost, your goal should be, even if you're meeting, just to be friendly with the person, to like really just take interest in their lives, because if not that, then what else is there?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Both of you, very good points. And I will say, this is maybe a little more specific to me and maybe people who might be now or in the future willing to be more open, is an anecdote actually on the video game stream that I've been doing, where I do advertise the podcast, or have it like in the corner, on and off. um, Someone rated my stream, which is a good thing. If you don't know anything about Twitch, I really didn't either. So rating, as bad as it sounds, is actually a good thing. Basically, somebody else's stream, they bring all their followers to your stream. So among like 300 people raid, one of them asked me about the Fart Fetish podcast, and asked me about the fetish specifically. And they were very, I'm only reading text, so they might be joking, but from the text they gave me, they were sincere and like at least interested and respectful once I did give them a lowdown. So I think even if you never wind up talking about the fetish, I think the point being is we all are normal people, and worth getting out there and finding friends and meeting people. um and I think through that we will, each of us individually, or whether individually or together, as you two actually demonstrate, we will find our people, and we'll find people, to, if nothing else, just have human and fun and real connections with. And I think that's probably the most important. I think that's the most important, human thing. That's the reason we're here. And to speak to that, actually, let's go to Dill. Do you have any maybe community updates that you'd like to share, that we haven't heard since the last time you were on, or anything maybe that wasn't shared at all?
Um, Community updates. Let me think. Um, I feel like the the last time we spoke, there was a sense of like growing, and there was a little bit of excitement around that, of like new people coming in, new like content creators, all that kind of stuff. Um, I feel like now, at least on our side, by which I mean the gay side, we have
The sinister, no.
plateau. Yeah. We've to me it seems like we've kind of plateaued a little bit. Oh, actually, there's a plateauing in a sense, but then also there seems to be a lot more openness around like um people who aren't actually into it themselves making content for us. Um, so that's something. Um, yeah, and the rest of it. Lately, there's been less of the whole people stealing other people's content and like that kind of drama. Um, there always is a bit of drama, but there hasn't been any of that kind of like content stealing stuff. So maybe people are like becoming good finally. I
Yeah,
don't
that's
know.
it.
But other than that, yeah, I think things are kind of like going along as normal. Um, on our side at least. Uh, yeah, I can't really think of anything else. But yeah.
No, that was more, I felt like I kind of put you on the spot. I'm like, tell me about the community, and yeah, you actually gave me actually great updates. What about you, Jules? Have you like seen anything in the community, or noted anything in your community travels, as it were?
Um, just because of how busy my schooling has been and the fact that I've been actually been wrecked with schoolwork, I been glancing at it. I haven't really been in it for the last 6 months, just because I had to focus on most of my school. But the community seems great from what I've realized, other than a lot of not nice straight alpha findoms that I've had the displeasure of talking to.
Sure. Yeah, I think we have that. We have the alpha cash masters, I believe. Yeah, we have that in our questions. Interesting concept. I will get back to that. What do you to stay on you, Jules, do you have any well, you might have others. Do you have any personal updates you'd like to share?
I have a lot of personal updates because just because of how open I am, I made the dumb mistake of getting too drunk at a house party over here and pretty much telling my entire program that I had a fart fetish. Through a game of truth or dare, because of course it had to beat that. And actually, it was people were really cool about it over here. I had one person who I didn't realize that overheard me and just started just teasing me like he would with like any friend. Other than that, I have a really good core group of friends now. I directed and started my own production a couple weeks ago, probably months ago when this episode actually gets aired. But but for right now, like a week ago, my own production was finally released. And yeah, that's pretty much it for life updates.
That sounds awesome. That sounds really awesome. Yeah, that sounds great. I'm glad you've been keeping busy. What about you, Dill? Anything on the you're a little more on the community side than the personal side, but do you have any personal updates you'd like to share or anything in your own in your life or growth?
I'll start off by saying, after having met Jules, like that little anecdote that he just gave, like that's so in character for him to do something like that. So like that's not even surprising at all that you would do that. As for me, uh, life updates. Nothing really. Like nothing major, I don't think. It's pretty much all the same. Work, friends, living.
I was gonna say, how's the? I mean, it's a question coming up, but how's the OnlyFans? Or are you on hiatus from that?
No.
Okay.
It's that's still happening. It's going well. I peaked a while back before my hiatus, and then let me explain. The reason for the hiatus is because of the whole well, no, there was an issue with like getting paid
From the platform.
and like I'm like, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So I'm like, hey, if the money isn't coming through, like I'm not going to be doing this. So like I stopped for a while, and then eventually I was able to resolve the issue. And funnily enough, the reason I found out about the payment issue was because of the whole Twitter thing with Elon Musk. And when you remember back when everyone was scared it was going to shut down and all of that. Because it's like, because my accounts are linked, I was like, oh, if I can't get to, like, if Twitter shuts down, what will happen to my OnlyFans account? Like, oh, let me get all the money out, but it didn't work. I'm like, oh no, what am I gonna do? But yeah, eventually that, like, obviously Twitter is still around. Yeah, I fixed the money problem, started making stuff again. I haven't reached the same number of subscribers that I had, but they're there. They're coming in. It's going well. I'm making new content, like putting it out there. If you haven't subscribed and you're listening to this now, I'm telling you, just go and subscribe. You're not going to regret it. I'm one of the cheapest people out there.
It is good content, and he's not wrong. He is the cheapest one out
there. You said something.
I don't know if that's a sell. Like,
you said something I wanted to comment to, but now I forgot. Huh.
But yes, I don't know about like good is subjective, right? Like I know the stuff I make isn't for everyone, as in, like some people are into, seeing all fully bare and all of that, and like I tend not to do that kind of thing. Um, but yeah, the people that have the feedback I've gotten so far is that it's good. I should keep going. Like, so yeah, if you haven't subscribed, go ahead. Sorry, I'm using this platform as like
That's okay.
You should do
You know what?
as a friend.
It's already and I'm not, this is not me saying like, oh, it's bad. I'm very, that's what this is for. Like, we're gonna talk to OnlyFans creators, we're gonna talk to creators of all kinds. So I'm not, that's if I'd said like, no, don't plug your platform, just say you're on OnlyFans, they'll find you otherwise. No, not at all. I was gonna ask you, digging down a little more, have you learned anything interesting about the business or the community from that OnlyFans experience, and anything you'd like to, like, I don't want to, like, you don't have to share business secrets, but anything you'd like to share that you did find interesting about your time in OnlyFans, and also how has it been connecting with subscribers and fans?
The connection with subscribers and fans, it's an interesting dynamic, isn't it? Yeah, I think I mentioned this last time as well, where it's like you kind of feel like you owe them something because they're paying, and they're not just paying for the videos, they're paying for the experience of kind of like knowing you. And there can be like, because I like the whole friendship side of things, sometimes it can be a little bit hard to like maintain that boundary of like, am I being friendly with you just because you're paying for it, or like, do I just genuinely want to be friendly with you? I mean, of course, like I want to be friendly with everyone, but also you're paying, so that adds there's a power imbalance. I'm pretty sure I mentioned that last time. Yeah, that's there. Back in the interview that you did with Jaden, Master Jaden, he mentioned the whole thing about like he found that he got more people when he made his one cheaper. That is a thing. So yeah, I'm one of the cheapest ones out there. You should subscribe to me. But yeah, like he's correct. He's right. Like, you get more people because like honestly, like what is this? Are people really paying for this? Yes, they are. There are people out there that want this stuff and they're willing to pay for it, but they don't want to pay too much for it because you know like the whole world is going through this whole cost of living crisis. Inflation is crazy everywhere. So, do you know what I mean? It's like, but people are poor, exactly. I'm poor, which is why you should subscribe to me.
No, but you know what? Here's the thing. I will say, in list, because I don't subscribe to anyone on OnlyFans, but listening to you talk, I realize OnlyFans is kind of an ideal platform because I mean, I'm not saying like you would necessarily do all these things naturally, but the idea, the concept of OnlyFans is to essentially provide lifestyle adult content for subscribers and some community back and forth. But it's really all like within that one platform. It's almost like trying to not, it's not, you don't have to make video essays or whatever. You're not trying to monetize in some, like, I don't know, YouTuber way or whatever. It's literally I mean, it's kind of like what Amy Farts is trying to do on YouTube, but I'm sure it also does on her OnlyFans. It's interesting because it's like a much more natural thing. It's OnlyFans is probably much more suited to non-edited, just kind of pick up the camera and fart, or whatever the sex fetish may be. But in our fetish, that may be the case. Type content, more amateur, or just the production values aren't expected. and that's not a space I've ever really worked in, but I realized that is probably the appeal of OnlyFans, is it feels like a much more natural environment for kind of connecting with creators. Would you agree with that, Dil?
Um, in a sense, yes. I'm not sure I agree with the whole like the lesser production value aspect, because I know there are people on there that like have like studio porn type budgets and everything, and they just maybe not to that full extent, but those like higher end people are on there as well. I think within our little niche community, it's less so, because like we are very niche. But yeah, I think in the sense of like connecting with creators and all of that, yeah, like you have a point. Like it is to a degree, I guess, more natural. Like that kind of thing happens a bit more naturally.
I agree, and maybe I said too many words. I think really all I'm trying to get across is there's a difference between the subscribers who come to OnlyFans and the subscribers to come from that come to Clips for Sale. Jules, I was going to ask you, have you I mean, you I don't think you've ever spoken in any like I'm definitely going to do content creation or anything like that, but have you ever considered or had thoughts in that direction?
For a while when I've been here, like late 2022, I did start uploading some videos to Twitter, and then they didn't do that well. And then I did make an OnlyFans, so I have one set up, and there's people following it, even though there's nothing on there. And I'm very concerned about why people are following a page that literally is just pictures and images I found on the internet because I needed something to like verify my account. But like, I am planning on doing content creation when I get home because I have a couple of my straight friends willing to be in videos doing some of this fetish stuff with me. So I feel like that in itself could be just a fun friendship bonding, but also like splitting profit.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, yeah, definitely keep us keep us informed, and we could definitely talk about it in the future if you get a whole Jules production company going.
Will do.
Staying on you for a moment, have you I think you spoke to this already, but maybe not. Have you found yourself any more active any more comfortable in the online fetish communities?
Yes and no.
Hmm.
I'm more comfortable. Apparently all my friends are not vanilla. I'm sorry, Dale. My friends are just cooler than yours. We literally spend most of our days just talking about kinks and stuff. Like we all sat down and did like a BDSM test together, and then we like roasted each other for like who was the most vanilla on the list. But when it comes to like Twitter spaces, not I'm still I try my best to comment on things or like to engage, but I still feel like an outsider, which makes sense in my head. But I did make a couple friends within the space in like the last couple days, which has been really nice.
Nice. I'm glad, and it definitely sounds like you're making progress. And you know what? I think it's just gonna be, it's just a matter of time. It's just doing it more and more, and I think that's where you'll feel more comfortable and more like the community that you are already a part of. Like it sounds like you feel like an imposter or like you don't belong, but I think very well and very much so I'm sure you do belong. And I think over time you will feel that. Dil, how do you respond to the insult that you have no cool friends?
I have cool friends in the community. Okay, I have very cool friends. I'm a very cool person. I have a very cool OnlyFans, which you should subscribe to. Any given opportunity, I will just throw that in.
You know what? It was a great response to my joke question. It's perfect. I liked it.
Damn, I got roasted. My heart will never recover. God damn.
Shoot. End the interview. It's over right now.
Oh, there was something I was going to say. I can't remember now. never mind.
Okay. All right. If you think of it, we will definitely interject. Don't worry. So let's start with let's go back to Jill. Let's go back to Dill. Are there any other fetishes that you need to? Well, I don't think this is a question I've asked either one of you on the interviews we've had that I remember, and maybe you've covered some of this, maybe you haven't. But are there other fetishes you feel like need to go with the fart fetish for you to enjoy it? Other kinks that you maybe find yourself exploring or thinking about? And anything you maybe never talked about on the show before that you might want to?
For me, in terms of the fart fetish itself, like I don't think there's anything that has to go along with it for it to work. If that makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah, like I guess I'm kind of vanilla in that sense. Just like anything, well, not anything. Most of it will do it for me. But like in terms of other kinks, like really, like when I talk to people about this stuff, I always say like farting and burping are my two biggest things. Yeah, not much else. In terms of like exploring other stuff, I have explored other stuff. There are some things I like. Water sports to an extent. Like with a lot of this stuff, like it has to be with the right people. Like that's the thing. It can't just be anyone.
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah, what else? What else is there? Feet stuff. I want to try like rope stuff. But like I I don't know how I would go about even starting that. But yeah, that's something I'd definitely be willing to try. Yeah.
Nice. I one thing you said, and I think is something that can never be stated enough, is and that people should understand is, all of us that like these fetishes, it is the kind of the overlying concept of all of it is consent, and within consent is like being and choosing and doing these activities with partners that you want to do them with. It's not like, someone's into golden showers, into farting, into scat, into whatever, and just want to be have that done to them by any old person. Some people may. I don't necessarily know anyone like that that I've run into, but there may be, and no judgment there. But I think the idea, regardless, always is consent, and with that is being and playing with partners that we want to engage with. Jules, what about you? Have you do you find there are other fetishes that need to go with this fetish, or are there other completely unrelated kinks or fetishes that you haven't talked to us about before?
I think if for just what I think goes with the fart fetish for me is I need to have the person doing it with me to have fun with it. That's more correct grammarly. I need them to also be enjoying what happened because I can't have fun with it if the other person's not, and I think that's a huge aspect for it. For other fetishes, I've learned that I'm more into domination than I thought I was, and that's more recent. I would love to try some doing things outside with the risk of people seeing you. I can't pronounce the word right now because it's late and my brain is shutting off. I also learned that I like being degraded, but I also have a praise kink. So it's very complicated on like what mood I'm in for each one to actually like take hold. Also, I would love to try out like human furniture as a thing. And those are more of my realistic could actually happen fetishes that I would love to try out.
Absolutely. Nice. I was thinking praise and degradation could be like you really like just a stinky tone on really like you're so fucking kind, Jules. Like, I don't know. That do anything for you? No, I'm kidding.
Oh, we're turning into that kind of podcast now.
Right,
for
right.
it.
No, on the previous, well, it's funny because it ties right into what something we talked about, or specifically, I think Jules brought up, but regardless, on the previous interview, we talked about there are some kinks and fetishes that you that you want to actually happen, that you want to actually do in reality, and there are some that will always or must or we want to stay in fantasy. What are some of those for you? Let's start with Jules.
Uh, Most of the things that I'm into are actually things that can never happen in real life, and I think it's can only be told in like stories or with like POV vids. Uh, I'm obsessed with giant tiny play because I want to be the small little tiny person that just gets to explore a giant body. Um, I learned that I really like transformation stuff, like getting turned into like clothing items for stuff. I think that's like really fun, and that's depending on like how it's written, it can be super hot. And for as much as a lot of people trying to like distance themselves from that, I like that was one of the first fetishes I've ever discovered before I discovered this one. I was super obsessed with like these really shitty like vor videos that were on like YouTube back in like the early conception of it. And even like being uh even like fantasy creatures and having those into stories, I think a lot of like getting turned on by like werewolves or like merfolk or like the fae stuff that like like beings that don't exist, but I want them to exist but they don't, so you have to read it in a story to even like experience what something like that would be like.
Very cool. And I appreciate your openness toward like before specifically that people do try to distance themselves, and I don't it that's the reason why we're doing this show, into to kind of give light and give some, I guess, give light. I guess we're trying to highlight and show people that these fetishes don't have to be um, creepy or scary. I mean, yes, vor is one that can't really be done, maybe more in VR space or something, but it's not something we can actually explore. But I think the fantasy nature doesn't mean it doesn't, that we shouldn't like respect the fetish just the same or just as much. Um, what about you, Dill? I feel like in talking to you, you seem a little less fantasy based, a little more grounded. But I could be totally wrong. What do you feel like you have any fetishes that you relegate to? This will only be a fantasy for yourself.
Um, I think you were accurate before that. Like I'm more reality based compared to Jules. Like I'm not really into vor or any of the other kind of things he described. Um, I feel like the closest thing that I can think of that kind of is like, oh, yep, this is more of a fantasy, I guess, would be like weight gain kind of stuff. Um, or yeah, like I'm into that in the sense of like I can find like larger guys like really attractive. Um, and like obviously there's a whole aspect of like eating food is related to farting, and for me burping as well. um so like there's that's kind of where the connection is for me. But like, could I meet up with someone in real life to like for feederism type stuff, to help them to gain weight? I'm not sure if yeah, I feel like for me there's like kind of a barrier there in that like I'm not sure like if I would feel comfortable doing that to someone. I know within that space itself, like obviously people want that to happen. Like they want to gain weight, they want to be um like that, like that's what they want. And I know that they don't always appreciate it when people outside of their space comes in and is like, oh, what about your health and all that kind of stuff. So this is not me being like that, but it kind of is me being like that, but not in a kink shamey way. It's more just from my own personal kind of perspective, I guess.
For-
Yeah, I
for-
hope I haven't offended anyone.
No, I mean I don't know, but I don't think so. But I mean I can't speak to anyone from that community, or for anyone in that community. I think I understand maybe your perspective though. I feel like I would have a similar feeling of like not necessarily like, oh, this is for your health, but like I don't think I just have an enjoyment necessarily of watching someone, eat. So I think that would be like something uh I would rather they do, separate from me. I'm not saying like, oh, take that somewhere else. Like I'm gonna close my eyes if you're gonna eat. But like um I think it's similar to like if people weren't into a fire fetish, like then please leave the room or something. Like we're doing fire fetish play here, we wouldn't want you to offend. We wouldn't want to offend you. Please don't offend us. Yada yada. So I think it's the same way. It's like there are choices we have, in these fetishes, and I think feederism, or what have you in that way is just the same as we have. We're gonna have maybe views, and you know, our it's as terms of offense, it's our actions that I think matter the most. Our thoughts are not always going to be um within our complete control. We're going to have things that, we might not say, and we might not want to offend people, but we might think, oh, this is, whatever we think, our brains work like that sometimes, based on our environment, our upbringing, and whatever. So I definitely feel like I understand that, that kind of view, that kind of perspective of like, I'm just not into this. I may like aspects of like the end result, the being a large person, but not necessarily the path to get there, as it were.
And I also know, like, on that, within the community itself, like there are some people that like really want to push for like full weight gain. I mean talking like they want to end up like bedridden and that kind of stuff, and like to them that's like the ultimate goal, like it's the hottest thing ever kind of thing. Whereas like even in that community itself, there are lots of people that are just like, no, that's too much. Like I don't like that. So there's nuance to that whole thing. Um, and also I have noticed that there is kind of an overlap, like in the fart fetish space and in like the feederism gaining space as well, where like people are into both, and like there are people online that I haven't really interacted with, but like I follow them, and like they make like food content or like eating gaining content that involves like gas as well, and like sometimes the fat people will be really put off by the weight gain side of things, and sometimes the gaining people will be put off by the gas side of things. And it's kind of funny. It's like, yeah, it's just like, oh, they're into both of them, so take it or leave it kind of thing.
Switching gears, do you have any thoughts or ideas on a topic that's kind of coming into vogue's not the right word. That's a terrible way to put it. That's coming into consciousness, I suppose, these days, really on the state of men and male self-image. We've kind of talked about this maybe between us in general terms. Well, maybe not between us, but over the course of several episodes, this has come up. And obviously the Master Jaden episode was one where we got into it a little more explicitly. Starting with maybe Jules, do you have any idea? Do you have any thoughts about the that topic, like the current state of men and male self-image, whether it be in any orientation that you've seen in your experience?
Um, I think my best way of explaining this would be doing an antidote, like not an antidote. Talk about my own self. I'm really bad with words today. I'm so sorry about that.
You're all good, Jules. You're all
Um,
good.
Did you hear the way he said sorry? Like, oh my god, that's a big giveaway that you're Canadian.
Oh no! Oh no!
fuck,
Get
my
him!
identity's ruined. Everyone will find me now. But no, as a person who's just realized that they're non-binary, but had dealt with a lot of male issues early on in life. Not that I'm not also. Anyways, complicated matter. I had a really bad eating disorder when I was younger because I was comparing myself to how men looked in the media. So I tried to, instead of going to the gym, because I know a lot of guys will, will develop eating disorders and then work out. I just stopped eating, and then because I didn't eat, I felt worse about myself, which then kind of counteracts why I wasn't eating in the first place. But yeah, no, I just know with a lot of like my own friends in general, it's that people that like a lot of my own friends have such a hard time even like communicating how they're feeling because they either A, don't feel like they can talk about it, or B, they don't want to worry other people about what about how they're feeling because they're not supposed to.
For sure, for sure. And I don't know if you said it, but do you find that exclusive to other man or male presenting people, or do you find that within women and female presenting people as well?
I feel like that's just a societal thing, is that we try to appease what society wants. So everyone, I don't think it matters if you're male or female, will always like, I don't with the issues that we're talking about, I feel like it's an everyone problem, not necessarily a gender-based problem.
For sure, for sure. I think yeah, I think the the idea to put any kind of focus on men is, I think, with societal change, I think the belief is the focus has come off men, and maybe that's the point, maybe that's supposed to, but I think then as a result it's given, or I was going to say made men feel empowered to say, but it's perhaps made men feel disenfranchised or whatever, not cared for perhaps by society. But again, I think it goes back to um, something I said in the Master Jaden interview, is in terms of the issue being specifically to men or male presenting, is that the idea of what a man is or was is outdated in many ways, or at least the stereotype, the media image, the what have you. Maybe just in this country, maybe many countries, I don't know for sure, but especially in America, there is um, a masculine image of a dad in a truck and playing, throwing the ball around the yard and whatever else goes, with that, Nick at Night or whatever media image. Um, but I think it's old. It's no longer serves us. So as long as men continue to want to cling to that image, there's going to be problems in society that continue to persist. But that is just my perspective. I'd like to jump to Dil, if you have any thoughts on anything I said, or the question in general of the state of men and male self-image.
I kind of feel like we're at a crossroads when it comes to this kind of thing, in that, like, yeah, those old ideas are still there. They're still very much present, especially um like in some regions of the world and within certain social groups, social classes, all of that. Like, it's still there. Um, but at the same time, like, now all these new ideas are coming, um, and like being put out there, and a lot of the people who cling to the old ideas don't necessarily like the new ideas, and or like the new way of doing things. Um, and it, like, in terms of male self-image, I think especially the younger generation have they have it a lot worse because of, things like TikTok and all of that. Like, yeah, like the whole comparison to people in the media, like, it was bad before, but like it's a lot worse now. Um, uh, and like it can be hard, and in terms of like, for guys out there, like young guys who are, but by young I mean like adolescent, like people going through that whole like figuring themselves out kind of phase in their life, um or like or at the beginning of that stage, because that stage can take 10 years even, um but like the people who are at the beginning of that stage, they're like, well, you know, like what is it that I have to become? What is it that I have to become? Like, am I meant to go for these old ways? Do I go for these new ways? And it's like, it's confusing. Because it's like there's no like rite of passage or anything, or not really, nothing like set in stone of like, this is what it means to be a male, to be a man in the modern world. There's no like one definite answer, and I think that makes it confusing and difficult for a lot of people, um, especially with a whole bunch of conflicting ideas out there. And you know, you get societal pressure, you get family pressure, you get peer pressure, of like what it is that you have to be and do and say and like how to act. And yeah, basically everything's a mess right now.
But we'll get through it. No, I mean, hopefully, but I do say that, I don't know, glibly is maybe not the right word, but I do think you're right about, especially the rite of passages, and I don't have an answer, but like, I feel like some of those were like, getting your driver's license. Maybe this isn't universal across the world, but like getting your driver's license was a big milestone because it was one of the first times where you're now responsible in an adult way that is immediately checked in terms of, oh, now you've gotten into a car accident and have to deal with insurance companies or this and that or what, or you avoid that, but in doing so you're essentially entering an idea of responsibility. And I'm not saying like people who, I think it's a rite. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I think it is that rite of passage that gives you a sense of connectedness with the adult world, as it were, or individualism, being an individual, being your own person, making, I think there's a lot of, maybe this is what I'm trying to attribute to. I think there's a lot of memes and jokes that are probably hitting real close to home for people of like, I'm scared to call the doctor to make my own appointment, or I'm like, I don't want to call the DMV to make an appointment to get my driver's test or whatever, so I'll avoid it. And I think a lot of these milestones are, without them, or without, maybe it's good people don't drive. Great. That's probably great. We have less cars on the road, but some of those milestones of old were maybe what introduced people into their own adulthood, is maybe what I'm trying to get at.
I think for adulthood, yes, I think the driver's license example is valid, was valid, and still is valid. But I don't like that's not specifically a male thing.
That's
You
true.
know what I mean? So it's like in terms of a teenage boy trying to like achieve that, I guess, self-actualization. Maybe that's too far, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like I don't think getting his driver's license is going to help him with that. Maybe to a minor degree. It's like, oh, a man is meant to be able to drive a car, but do you know what I mean?
No, absolutely. No. Yeah, definitely. We are definitely talking. I kind of got off on a little bit, but because in a little more general terms, but we are more speaking of, I guess it would be the matter of it's really the matter of connecting with other people. I do think there is an introductory level to that in the things I'm talking about, like the setting your own appointments and getting your driver's license, whatever, because it does give you that sense of it is those skills that will most likely make it possible to talk to other people that you want to connect with. And I think that is, I mean, at the core, I think that is a lot of where the state of men comes from, but that's an external factor. Like we can't rely on, it's like all women must talk to a man and have some kind of connection with them. We're not mandatory that you marry them, but you have to, it's like, that's basically what the incel or that idea wants to implement. I mean, obviously they're not going to, but the idea of autonomy kind of escapes that sect or the old minds, I suppose. So I think it's more about how to update those minds for the new world, for the world where people of all genders are autonomous and allowed to make their own choices in terms of what they want, and about I mean, maybe it's too easy to say, but I think, I'm definitely on the path myself. I think a lot of men leveling up to the world we have today, not accepting kind of the old paradigms of like, once you have a partner on lock, they're yours. You have a kid with them and they're unhappy in this marriage, but I'm sorry, babe, you're stuck because, we have a child together and you have to be unhappy for 30 to 40 years or so, maybe longer.
I feel like you're hinting at a very recent high-profile divorce case.
No, I'm not.
Maybe
Not at all.
no,
That's
no,
not
no, no, no.
No. I mean, of course, I am hinting at the Steven Crowder situation, and obviously the Andrew Tate situation comes into mind as well with the whole manosphere. So it is obviously these are very recent events that are coming into case, and I have no specific. I'm not a, I have nothing to say about Crowder. I'm not a fan in general, so this didn't like, oh my God, like it doesn't, it's not a surprise to me, I suppose. So yeah, but I do think I think it's just that simple. I think maybe men have had the idea that they can just kind of roll onto the scene and just whip their dick out and it's all good. And for some maybe very handsome men, maybe it works out that way. But for the majority of us, and in general in life, and especially in these changing times, it's not going to be that way. It's really about having something to offer for your partner and expecting something from your partner as well. Not in a transactional way, but like, both of you should enjoy being in a relationship. To speak to another specific example, but not really as a negative one, I don't think I brought this up yet on the show. Jerry Seinfeld was talking about, in life you take the tortures you can deal with. And that makes a lot of sense. Life isn't always going to be fun. Even the things we enjoy, whether it be this podcast, the video game thing, all the things we all do, there's going to be some work involved. There's going to be some hard parts that, we have to just accept. There's not going to be all roses. But he included marriage in that. And I find that kind of absurd. Maybe if you've been married as long as he has, maybe it is, but it just doesn't make sense that people, to me, include their life partner, the person they most likely share a bed with, as torture. That to me is very surprising. And again, I don't care about Jerry Seinfeld. It doesn't matter. But just to hear that statement, and I think that's common. People, it's been a joke on, sitcoms for a long time, and I never really thought about it. It didn't really, click with me or anything like that. But it is weird that we, the old ball and chain and this and that. It's like, why is marriage? And this is good. I agree with you that maybe times are changing, because I don't feel like the younger generations and our generations even have this view anymore. I hope. But so many people seem to view marriage, or again, past views, like it's a trap, or it's something to escape from, or not. Like, I look at your life partner, your marriage partner, whether you're poly or whatever, those should be the best times of your life. And there's going to be adversary. There's going to be times where it's not always, again, roses, but like, I feel like most of those moments with the person you call, your life partner, your wife, your husband, whatever, should be joyous. Maybe that's just a movie lie, but I don't think so. I don't think there's a reason to get married or have good, close, romantic, sexual, whatever connections without that feeling of it not being torture, of it being joyous, in fact. Jules, what do you think about any of that? Sorry to put you on the spot. And feel free to disagree. Don't think like I know anything. Like I'm just a person with opinions.
I just don't think I've ever really thought of this, because most of my learning about like just men's stuff in general was just about like men's rights and things that enchant men within like the court system for like custody battles and all that stuff. But what you said about relationships just there, this might be a little too personal, but the reason why mine just ended was because I had the audacity of trying to ask my partner to be more open with me and just tell me how he felt, and he just thought that that was absurd. But I don't really know what I could add or disagree with that, because this isn't necessarily a space that I try to throw myself in a lot.
Sure.
I mostly disagree with a lot of what the quote unquote alpha males say people are, what they're teaching, because I think as much as there might be, and I'm saying this as loosely as possible, might be something beneficial with what they're saying, I think they're absolutely horrendous people who use misogyny and manipulation tactics to brainwash younger people into acting in an unsuitable way.
I agree with you completely. I think that's exactly the nail on the head. In fact, I think they I mean, maybe not all of them, but some of the figures do and are speaking. Some of even the bad ones are speaking good things and good lessons. But the taint or the problem of it is using it's basically a manipulation tool. Instead of teaching like good lessons and self-reliance, it's more like, let me get you into my ecosystem. Let me get you into my, as they joke about Andrew Tate, into my Discord server or whatever that's paid. Essentially, it becomes a product rather than essentially trying to teach people to better themselves. It's more like, let me teach you how to be reliant upon me and my courses or me and my products. I think that's kind of the biggest problem of the good lessons that may be baked in to some of these figures. To stay on you for just one moment more, how would you say you feel about your own self-image?
As most people can contest, I hate myself on a good day. Um, I've never seen myself as a good person or as someone who is deemed worthy for most things, which I think is why I have issues talking to people and stuff. And I know some people think I say that as a way of like, oh, like to get like a validation, but me and my me and gaining confidence in myself has always been hard, just deemed on facts um that I apparently look very intimidating to some people because I'm tall and because I'm male presenting. Um, a lot of yeah, it's just my self-image and me do not relate well because I think of like, especially with the societal terms of just all men being seen as aggressive and or predators in certain spaces, especially in the climate in the States right now, where gay men are now having the same rhetoric, being told that what that happened in the 50s about like how we're, but mostly towards even trans individuals, about how we're all pedophiles and how we're trying to manipulate the youth into becoming degenerates, kind of just doesn't help with that process either, I guess, as a community and society as a whole.
Yeah, of course. No, it's absolutely fucked up. Absolutely. Absolutely. There's no way around that. Um I it's funny to hear you speak, and I'm the same type of person. I also tend to see the negative or whatever, but um I think that's what maybe keeps us aware of and I'm not, this isn't me like celebrating you, celebrating me. I'm not, we're just people. Like, I think the awareness of how we act or how we interact with the world, I think is very it's a very important thing, and it's what keeps us grounded and keeps us, I mean, I guess it's right in the definition. It keeps us aware of how we are. I think people who do it generally go too far and overcorrect and over assume bad things about you, because I mean, I don't know you beyond this podcast, but I do think all the opposite things of what you say about yourself, and I imagine that is the true reality. But I obviously I don't know. But the way you present yourself, I can't imagine you are the person you think you are. So I mean, I would talking to myself as well, definitely see your light and see your joy that I have no doubt that you have and bring to the world, and you definitely bring to this show. Absolutely. So definitely yeah, see that as best as you can, and keep trying to see that.
Thank you. I don't.
Um, of course, no, yeah, it's my pleasure. Like I'm happy to, yeah. You are a joyful person in my eyes. So, you seeing that would be great, I think. What about you? What about you, Dill? How do you feel about your own self image?
For me, I've recently, and by recently I mean like within the past couple of years, I've kind of reached like a turning point when it comes to all that kind of stuff. So I think I used to be more like Jules in the sense of like my self-esteem wasn't great. Um, but now I guess I've been like turning that around and kind of acknowledging that yes, I am valid, I am worthy, I am all the good things. Um, Maybe I'm even attractive. What a concept. Um,
Oh,
uh, and and like I think it's very hard. It's very hard to to kind of even get to that point. Like especially because you can't help but do the whole comparison thing. And like growing up, you're just so bombarded with all these messages of like what you should look like, what you should be like, what you should act like. And when you fail to measure up to all those things, it really impacts your self-worth and your sense of self. Uh, but yeah, um, so like recently I've been turning all that around and like physically, yes, like I've been working on myself, going to the gym, all that kind of stuff, eating healthy, uh, like going back to that whole stuff I was talking about, feederism gaining and all of that, like that's partly why like all that has to remain in fantasy for me because it's like I as much as I find it attractive to a degree in other people, like I don't want that for myself. Um uh and yeah, like I've found that, you know, leading a healthier, more active lifestyle makes you feel better about yourself, would you believe? Um and and yeah, and funny enough, like I think, you know, you were talking before about like how all the how would you describe like, you know, the Andrew Tate-esque type people, him and his circle, his ilk, if you will, like they kind of like promote these same kind of things as well. It's like, you know, work out, start lifting, uh, be healthy. And like here I am doing the same thing. I feel like we're coming from very different places. But like, you know, that kind of that specifically, like it's valid. It's like, you know, if you take care of yourself physically and mentally, you will feel good about yourself. And I guess that's what I'm finding right now. Um, Still a work in progress. Like, you know, sometimes I find myself like slipping back into my old ways of thinking where it's like, oh, I'm so ugly and all of that. I still get very insecure, like uh like I talk to people online, obviously, within this space. And like when it gets to the point where I'm comfortable enough, like sending them a picture of all of that, like I still get very uncomfortable with that because like there have been too many times where people will like see what I look like and then they're gone, they stop talking, and it's just like, you know, that's not fun. That's never fun. It just makes you feel awful. So like, you know, I still get hang-ups about like, oh, that doing that kind of thing. Um, but you know, like then you just have to kind of remember it's like, hey, what do they matter? Like they're not important in the long run, and like if they're going to be so shallow to treat me that way, then like they're not even worth it in the first place. Um, but like on the other hand, there have been people, and there continues to be people who are like very the opposite, and they, you know, how do I describe it? They think I'm hot, and I'm like, oh, that's nice. It's it's nice to have people say that. It's kind of surreal even because like I tend not to think of myself that way. Even right now, I feel icky just talking about it. Um, so yeah, I'm kind of I'm not fully there yet, but I'm getting there. Is kind of where I would put myself in terms of self-image and all of that. Um, and for anyone out there who's listening to this and like is having issues with this, uh, and if you're in a position where you can like afford it and safely do it, I would highly recommend therapy. Um, yeah, just putting that out there.
No, it's a absolutely good idea. And I feel like there are lower cost options out there. I'm not talking about BetterHelp, which may be good too. I don't know. Therapy is more accessible than it has been maybe in years past, and I think it's important. I think the stigmatization of as much as this fetish that shouldn't be stigmatized, neither should therapy. In terms of really, it's a really important thing to get some outside perspective. And I think if people have had either bad experiences with therapists, because I certainly have, or both have the cliche notion from TV or films or video games or whatever, that that therapist is just gonna be like, listen to you for a while and then, how does that make you feel? It's like I think I don't know if that cliche has ever really existed, and maybe there are just therapists like that. Um, Possibly there are possibly bad therapists, just as there are bad people in in every profession. Not bad is maybe not the right word, but not as competent. Is competence a good word? Yeah, that was actually a much better word, in fact. Um, yes. So it will take. My point is, I guess, of all that, it will take sometimes looking for people and admitting like, oh, this isn't the right person, let me find a good pick, and saying it to the other person like, oh, we're not a good fit, and they're going to be fine with that because you know I'm pretty sure most people who are getting into the therapy profession um generally are doing it with a sense of wanting to do the best by whatever clients they have. And if they're not a fit with that person, like let's say you find a therapist that is anti-kink or doesn't understand the fetish or anything like that, not necessarily this fetish, but doesn't understand like fetish in general, like you're gonna have you might have problems, and you would probably don't want to stick with with that therapist. But you will, and there are therapists that do and can understand, I think, all life perspectives. So I wouldn't let that be a hang up to anyone seeking therapy. Financial, I definitely get is still one, but I do definitely do some research. I think there are options available out there. I definitely hope for all people who would definitely want it. Um, staying on you, Dill, for a moment. You mentioned that to me you've had some experience within the manosphere. Can you talk a bit more about that and what came of that for you? Like why and how did the change happen since that time?
Okay. This is going back to my what we used to call an edgelord, I guess, a teen edgelord. I wasn't.
Let me play the scary
Do
music.
people
Hold on. No, there's no
do
music. I'm
people
sorry.
still say that? Do
Yes, they
people
do.
still say? I feel like no. I feel like no one says that anymore. I feel like
I-
it's
No,
I-
I'm
very.
still in my edgelord phase, so like let's be gentle with it.
It's a double
Um.
edged lord.
Uh,
Sorry.
Look, I don't think I was fully like it. Like I knew people that were way more edgelordy than me. Um. So like I was like very minor in my edgelordiness. Um. But like yeah. So my kind of experience with the early manosphere. Oh, just saying the word gives me the ick.
Sure.
Um. Uh. This is kind of I'm gonna say like 2010s, like beginning 2010, maybe probably not 2009, like 2010, 2011, like from that time onwards is kind of where um like I was not involved, but like I definitely saw the development of it, and like yeah, how it all came about. Um, can I just quickly, you can cut this part out. Can I just quickly look back through the messages, because I feel like if I say all of that, then
Certainly, yeah. No, we yeah. Don't feel like.
I just want the Jeopardy music to play now.
I don't think this is Jeopardy. This is Price is Right. I know Price is Right better. Oh yeah, Jeopardy.
here I found it. Okay, so okay. I don't want to just read off this. Maybe I will.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Use the script. Like, before the people that don't know, like the manosphere. So I was talking about like early 2010s. 2014 definitely I was involved in it. So it's like a collection of loosely affiliated websites and blogs that dealt with men's issues. And like I think a lot of them started with the premise of like male self-improvement and that kind of stuff. The things I was talking about before, of like how as a boy trying to figure himself out, like could then see himself as a man, and what that meant. And you know, I think there were some of them had like really good ideas about like, you know, self-care and all that kind of like self-care, self-improvement, all that kind of really good stuff. But then there were a lot of them that were kind of leaned, uh, leaned towards a more uh, basically misogynist kind of side, that kind of defined men in like men were defined in terms of like their relationship with women, and they viewed the situation of women's status in the world as not desirable. Um, like so many of them were against third wave feminism, about like, you know, what women's rights even meant, and like all those ideas that were like associated with third wave feminism, which was like at its heyday in the time, I guess. They were like opposing and countering all of those ideas, um, and like from within that space, you kind of got like uh, I think one of the main ideas that came out of that was that basically men have it really bad in the modern world because reasons. So
Sure.
you know, things to do with how divorce favors women, and like how men aren't seen as inherently valuable. Whereas, funny enough, like the reason they saw women as having inherent value is because they can have children, which now that I think about it is like, ew, yuck. Like, why does that make the only thing that makes someone valuable? Uh, there was this kind of like phrase, not catchphrase, but like thing going around where it's like, women are human beings, men are human doing, in that like men only have value.
I'm
Men
sorry.
only have value for what they men only have value for what they can do, whereas women have value in and of themselves. And that's not good. Uh,
I'm sorry. That sounds like a
that was
bad. That sounds like a bad TED Talk title.
but like that was one of the kind of common things, or ideas floating within that space at the time. And like from that, you kind of got like these three groups coming out of it. One of them was MGTOW, MGTOW, men going their own way, who basically kind of disavowed, or like basically didn't want to have anything to do with women, kind of thing. They're like, oh no, I'm not getting into any relationships, none of that kind of stuff. Like, you know, they're kind of like, bye women, none of that for me. No marriage, no relationships, like none of that. I'm stepping away from all of that. It's just not good. Um, then there were the pickup artists, PUAs, who are like, well, I can see that this is the state of the world right now, but I'm going to use it to my advantage and like only use women for sexual satisfaction kind of thing. There was a third group as well. I can't remember what they call themselves, but like yeah, there was a third group as well. Um, and I can't remember what their specific beliefs were either. I just know that there was a third group that came out of this whole manosphere type of thing. And then the other aspect of that is like that whole thing kind of led itself onto like a lot more sinister type conservative right wing. Some of it was like borderline, like not even borderline racist. Like they're you know, within these kind of circles, you got like the worst kind of people like joining and like getting their views in there. Like I'm talking like white supremacist, like very racist, very homophobic, like all that awful kind of stuff. Like these people were there, and like popularizing their ideology and like kind of recruiting people into this, recruiting like vulnerable people, mainly boys, like young adolescent type age people, into this space. And yeah, and like now here we are kind of dealing with the follow on from all of that, where we're kind of seeing that kind of thing happen again to a certain degree. Yeah, as for me personally, I was kind of always an observer. I was never like really involved in any of this. But yeah, yeah, interesting to see the development. And the change for me happened where where like the edgelordiness ended. Because like as much as it pains me to admit that there was a part of me even back then that kind of agreed with a lot of the stuff they were saying, which just goes to show like how easy it is for them to prey on young minds that aren't fully informed about the world. And like, you know, you're presented with one perspective and then they give you all this other stuff which feeds into the confirmation bias, and then you're like, oh yeah, of course the world is this way, and like of course I have to have all these other viewpoints as well. But then it's like just being exposed to other viewpoints and other ideas that kind of cancels out the old ideas. You're like, oh no, the first ideas that I had before don't actually make any sense and aren't valid at all. So yeah, like there are so many YouTube videos and channels like about this kind of stuff. Like I can't even list them off the top of my head, but like you know, if you just look up manosphere response or like any of that kind of stuff, like you'll find it and it'll be like, oh yeah, these people are crazy. So yeah, I don't know if any of that was relevant to what the question even was, but yeah.
Of course. No, absolutely. I think it all helps completely. It all helps provide perspective. I think I mean, for me, maybe people understand it more. I mean, and I'm sure I'm not the only person that's like this either, but like it's the talking about anyone with a lack of humanity, whether it be women, marginalized groups, racial groups, whatever. It's criminals, whatever. It doesn't matter. Like there's a sense of humanity in all people. They may not be good people, they may not be whatever, but humanity exists inside them. So yeah, the whole view of viewing women this certain way as like an object to possess or like for birthing or what have you is such a weird I mean, like I get it, like intellectually, yes, sure, that makes sense, I guess, but like I don't feel like in my heart it doesn't make sense. And I think the only reason maybe I didn't succumb to that in in like my youth is I was kind of a loner nerd, so I didn't really like I didn't know about Gamergate or any of that. I only learned about Gamergate in the post period or whatever, the more time of more leftists and whatever being on YouTube. Before that, I had no idea what the fuck was going on YouTube. I didn't know that was even a thing people did. I maybe went to YouTube every once in a while. Yeah, and then before that, even as a gamer, I wasn't like into like gamer communities. Like I was a moderator on one gamer forum, but even then it was just like I was in my own world. I liked Star Wars and I edited pictures of me holding lightsabers and shit. Like I didn't like I wasn't even looking for women or a romantic partner at that time of my life. That was probably part of my folly in and why it hit me so hard later in life when I got into high school and when my three friends all got together with partners at that time. That's the only time I was really confronted with the issue of, a partner is a thing that people have. Like maybe that's a development issue that I spoke to. But anyways, it kept me kind of isolated from this kind of negative rising in the man space, which I may have very well fallen victim to given my my isolation in many ways from people and especially from women in that way. Um, do you think there's any intersection between the manosphere attitudes and I promise I will get off this. This is the last question I have on this topic. I know it's a little bit of a downer, but I do think it's important at the same time. Do you think there's an intersection between manosphere attitudes and mentalities within the fetish community?
That's an interesting one. I'm not I'm not sure if intersection is the right word, but I can see some parallels. Um, in that there are some people that I see within the community that seem to have not necessarily the same ideas, but like similar ideas uh, that were presented back in the old Manosphere days of like early to mid 2010s, um, which in and of themselves, those perspectives aren't bad, but I've seen what they can lead on to. Not that I'm making a slippery slope argument, but yeah, um, I'd rather not name. Like, yeah, I don't want to name specific people or like specific examples of these viewpoints, but like, yeah, there are, yeah, there are some parallels that I see there. Um, and I think also on the other end of it as well, um, like we were talking about the cash master type alpha people, they seem to have perspectives that kind of mimic those of like the PUA type people in that like they're they're only involving themselves in our community for money uh when like they don't respect us as people, they don't see us as worthy, they probably think that we're like disgusting kind of thing. um and yeah, like they're only they're basically exploiting us. And the fact that like people are willing to pay for their content, and it's kind of like, yeah, it's disgusting. um but other than that, I don't really, yeah, those are the connections I see.
For sure. For sure. Um, let's jump. I have a few other questions to get to before this, but let us jump to that cash master aspect. Um, I mean, I want to talk to Jules, but Dill, talk to me at least first. What for the definition's sake of the audience and myself, for that matter, what is it like an alpha cash master? And we've talked about like alpha male jock on the channel before. So how would you like differentiate those? And maybe is cash master similar to like a findom, maybe by another name?
In terms of definition, uh I think the way I described it was like alpha is a personality, um, jock is a body type, and cashmaster is a profession, like quote unquote profession, um, which basically involves it's findom basically. Like, you know, people get off on sending you money and like you take their money kind of thing. That's my understanding of findom basically. Like I'm not the expert on that, but like that's basically it, right? Um,
I think so. Not the most important question, but it did stick out to my head. Would you say there's alpha cash masters of all body types, or is it specifically a certain body type as well?
um, they tend to be on like the jock side, from what at least the ones that kind of invade our space.
I'd imagine.
They're either on the jock side or like very twinky. Um, twink being like the thin ones.
Sure.
I sometimes forget that. I sometimes forget that like straight people don't use these words.
Yeah, no, it's as helpful as you can be. It's absolutely.
Yeah, and they not to have like a racialized view of the world. I hate myself for saying this, but like they're usually always white people as well.
What? Oh my God. White people exploiting a business opportunity? What?
I know, right? I know. I'm not sure like how relevant that is, but I feel like there's something going on there. Like
I enjoyed it regardless of relevance.
Yeah. So yeah, it tends to be like these really like muscular type or like twink type people who are like have this kind of I'm better than you attitude. Like that, that's I guess that's the alpha aspect. However, let me say this. I feel like a lot of them, especially like these young, they're a bit dumb. Like a lot of them are dumb. They're young and dumb. These young dumb people. I want to say young, dumb, and full of cum.
Right.
But
That's
like,
that's the only thing you're missing.
but they're not, because like, you know what? That's the thing. They're not full of cum.
It's out. It's out. They're out of cum. Right. Oh yeah.
No, because like they wouldn't even entertain the idea of like being fluid with their sexuality. Like their whole shtick is that they are straight and therefore they're better than you. Whereas I feel like in proper like BDSM type spaces where, you know, there is like that kind of alpha role, like it's a role, and there's talk, there's like there's an agreement of like what it is that people want and all of that. Whereas I feel like a lot of these young, dumb, not full of cum people that come in and invade the space, they're just using it to kind of be an awful person and just to be like misogynistic, homophobic, transphobic, all of that, and like to use the F word, just because they can, and like that's what's really off-putting to me about a lot of them.
Do you think that it is this content is purely purchased and bought? I guess engaged with content, commerce. Is this content only purchased by people who are specifically maybe into the kink of straight, maybe even straight white men degrading a gay man, as it were? Not that it's right or good or healthy. I'm not making a judgment either way. I'm just saying, like, do you think that is the general flow of commerce going to these type of people, or do you think there is just I don't know, a desperation to have any kind of content that it just some money will inevitably flow to these exploitive figures as well?
I think it's both to a degree. I think there definitely is a lot of desperation amongst the community. However, at the same time, like having said that, there are amazing people within the community that like that are providing the content. I'm one of them. I have an OnlyFans. You should subscribe to it.
Shameless. fucking shameless.
It was good. Let me
continue.
Okay.
Let me continue.
I'm gonna have to cut at least
but
4
yes.
of these. No, I'm kidding.
But at the same time, I think yes, there are people who specifically get off on the idea of like a straight guy, maybe even a straight white guy, kind of dominating them and being aggressive and like using all the slurs. And you know, I was having this discussion with another friend recently, and he was like, "Yeah, he doesn't like them either, but he's like, it's a necessary evil kind of thing." Yeah, and I kind of wish they didn't have to be there to take advantage. I kind of wish that people weren't into that. Wow, sorry, I shouldn't have said that. That sounded
No, I think I get what you're saying, but I'm sorry. I may have missed your answer in terms of like, do you think it's only the people who are into that type of thing, or is it people that are like just hungry for any kind of content that they're buying it as well? And I'm sorry, if you had to put a percentage on it, which would you say would be the majority?
Oh, honestly, I have no idea when it comes to that, because like you can't.
It's true. You'd just be making an assumption.
When someone makes a purchase, you don't know what their intention was. Like it could be because they like that thing specifically, or it could be just because they want anything and they're willing to take what's out there. Yeah,
that's fair.
So,
and it really,
you know,
more, I guess the only fair way to ask the question would almost be like in your like travels in the community, do you feel there's a feel for I don't know why I'm keeping this voice going, but a feel for exploitation, or more of a feel for or there is desperation? But again, I'm not asking that question, but that is I guess what I was trying to get at is do you feel there is a large segment within the gay community, within the gay fart fetish community specifically, that are into that? I guess it would be a type of degradation in that way, of which these alpha cash masters are actually providing a service, versus the people who maybe just like a new content just dropped, gotta buy it.
There's I can't put a number on it,
For
but
sure.
all I can say with confidence is that there are both groups that are buying this type of content. There are people that are into that specifically, and there are the people that just want anything.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
And like there was a guy not recently, a couple of weeks back, maybe a month back even, like a straight guy who was like he's posting videos and stuff, and he's like, I can't believe why I'm so popular, and like, why do people keep liking my stuff? He was like, it seemed genuine, of like he was surprised. And then like, people were explaining in the replies of like, well, you look like you have an attractive body, and also there's the fact that you're straight, and like that's a huge deal for a lot of people. Like that automatically ups you, which I feel like that shouldn't be the case, but that's just how it is.
For sure. Jules, we've been without your voice for a very long time. How do you have any views on the cash master, the findom, as it were, of the community? Anything you feel about that type of content creation, or that type of personality or attitude?
I feel like there are some really, really good ones that are really nice people outside of it, that they play a character, but they do it because they're into some of it, but it's also like a business to them. And because I have one person that I actually adore, because he's actually so nice. But if you watch his videos, he's like a complete asshole. But if you actually talk to him outside of it, he's so sweet and genuine about everything. And that's Sebastian Cash. He's such a nice guy outside of it, and like
I love him. He's so
I've
never
sweet.
talked to him.
I got like custom content from him for free, for just like, not for free, but like I bought some of his videos. He's like, oh, because you got me to this milestone, I'll give you like this size. What do you want? I'll give you like a nice 2-minute video. And I was super happy. Like, he's super cool, because I don't want to. We talked, we bonded. I love him. Even like I would consider like Sir Brett or like King VJ to be some really cool. I wouldn't call them like findoms or like like alpha casuals, but they kind of have that persona that people really like, and they're also really cool people. From just like reading tweets and stuff like that, or even like talking with one of them because I was like, "How did you get into this?" Because I was just curious. But I feel like a lot of the really younger ones, like they're 19 or they're like my age, I guess, do it because they are homophobic and they are racist and they use it as a way to be that way without getting in trouble. I guess because you can get away with degrading someone if people are going to pay you to degrade them. So it's not that I disagree with the content as a whole. I think I disagree with the intent that they're going for it. Because again, I've bought stuff from these people and some are like very cool that I probably would if I had money. And then some are like very much fucking pay me now or don't fucking talk to me again type deal. And those are the ones that I'm like, you need to fuck off because you're now ruining like a thing that's been around for years. Because findom and like this type of thing is not new. It's just I feel like people are now taking advantage of a situation more than actually like understanding what the basics of it is.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. That makes definitely a lot of sense. And speaking to personalities or like, playing a character as it were, I've definitely felt that way about like femdom, not findom, but femdom in terms of it's definitely a character that a lot of people are playing. Not to say these more exploitive alpha cash masters aren't out there, but and maybe exploitive femdoms and exploitive femdoms we know definitely that must exist as well. And I don't know why I said must, but um it is in many ways just a character. I mean, it is. I mean, no one is. You can't exist unless you don't have need to go out in the world. You can't really exist in the world as a fully dominant personality. It just doesn't. It just doesn't fly. It doesn't. As much as it can be written into a story, as working out that way, it just doesn't. The world doesn't operate around any one person unless that person happens to have a shitload of money. But in most cases, that's not the case. Have either one of you found a more introspective people in your circles to discuss the fetish with? Jules, perhaps have you found new people that you found yourself discussing with? Maybe even OnlyFans creators, or other people, whether community friends in real life or whatever, that you've had these type of conversations with, or felt you could.
I feel like I don't talk to a lot of people. Like I don't talk to well, I talk to OF creators sometimes, but then again, I have the thing that Dil brings up where like I don't know if they're talking to me because I pay for this content, they actually want to talk to me, or or are they just doing it because they want to keep my business? So I tend to stay away from talking things. But no, most of my friends that I have, we talk about the stuff constantly. Like a lot of people ask me, especially one of my newer friends that I made a couple months ago was very curious like why I'm into it, how I got into it, like what aspects about it do I like what my type is when it comes to it, and was just like very curious. But I found a lot of people since being in Ireland are very open to this. Most people in Europe I found are very open and willing to try it or even find it hot themselves and are really open to just talking about it, or even if they don't get it, they're willing to try to see if they themselves will like it and then figure out from just them doing it how it would how why someone would like it. But no, like I don't think I'm answering the question because I do this a lot. I rant. But no, I do have a lot of close friends here. Even like my friend that traveled with me to visit Dill when we met up is very quizzitive about it and will make jokes with me about it, being like, well, I know I'm female presenting, but you find it so gross when I do it. But yet when our other friend does it, you're like, nice one. And I'm like, yeah, because it's fun teasing you because you get offended so easily.
I like that.
But yeah.
That's really great. And you know what? I think you did answer the question, because that part is important too. The even the running into people where you are, and being able to talk about it. I mean, speaks to, one, your comfort, but also the expectation, or not, maybe not the expectation, but the possibility, the good possibility, maybe, that I think that's why I called it an expectation. The very good possibility that people are able to, at the very least, understand, or maybe at the very least respectfully tell you that that's cool, but I can't talk about this further. I think that's sometimes the best, that's the best negative response you can ask for, is like, I can't talk about this, but cool, you be you, or whatever. And that may happen, but I think most people, or a lot of people, will be inquisitive and want to know more, in a respectful and nice way. Obviously, if you don't know people, you never know how they're going to react. But the more we build relationships with people, the more we have an understanding, or an idea of what kind of things they might be able to hear, and what kind of things they're how they'll react to things. Like, we don't know for sure. We should definitely take those opportunities when we feel empowered to do so. But our friends can expire. I think the best way to say it is, our friends, or the people we engage with, can surprise us. What about you, Dill? Have you found more introspective conversations in any of the places you connect with people?
Yes.
Good.
Sorry,
Very good.
sorry that like I'm trying to like get my words together. I
No,
know
no.
that awkward silence. Yes, I have found that kind of introspective conversation, and I think I think a lot of that comes from like what I was saying at the beginning when we started this, about like how I like connecting with people, like outside of fetish stuff, but also kind of getting deeper into the why and the how and all of that. Because otherwise, like, a lot of the people that message me, um, it's very surface level. It's like it gets boring and repetitive, and it's like, oh, nice one, what did it smell like, all that kind of stuff, and just like, yeah, whatever. Um,
You need AI to respond for you.
Yeah, right, right. Like, it's basically like that with some people. It's just like the same questions over and over again, and it's like we can't get beyond that. And some people like can't even carry a conversation. It's like, hi, how are you? I'm good. You? Yeah, I'm good. And then they don't follow up with anything else. And then a few days later, they'll be like, hi, again. Um, Oh, oh my God. The worst one is just like when you can't even use full words. It's like, hi, WYD. Like, come on. Do you want to talk to me or not?
No, I just don't know.
Um,
WYD. Give me your letters now.
okay, look, WYD isn't an inherently bad thing,
No.
but like, it tends to be that the people that say that kind of stuff, like you don't get much out of them, and like I find it tedious to talk to them. However, that this is not answering your question. There are people that are the complete opposite, and like you can have really good conversations with, whether it's about this stuff or whether it's about other stuff. And I find that like the people that can have good conversations at all are the people that you can have good conversations with about this stuff, and to be more introspective about it all. Um, and yeah, um, yeah, and like I think a lot of those people are content creators themselves, which I feel like you kind of have to be to make good content, and I think it's that kind of thing that separates the good people from the bad people. Like, for example, when Jules was talking before about like he was talking about Brett and Sebastian Cash, um like I wouldn't even consider those people to be like the alpha dom, whatever, straight jock type people, because like in my mind they're kind of in the community itself, or they're allies, and like, you know, they're providing us a service, but like they still respect us. Um, and like they're the kinds of people that like can have these nuanced type of views and like that you can get along with. Um, yeah, they're out there, and I have spoken to some of them, and they're nice. And when they're nice, they're nice. Like what else? What else is there to say? Good people are good people.
No, that makes
Mind
perfect
blown.
sense. No, that's great. That makes perfect sense. And you know, it's now the way you said that, actually, it seems odd that there are anyone that would cater to a community they don't respect. Like, obviously money's there. I get it. But at the same time, like, I just it doesn't, I guess it doesn't make a lot of sense to me that you'd want to, I don't know, spend time or spend any effort or whatever in a you know, something you didn't want to be around or didn't respect or didn't like. I'm glad that there are, and that's almost seems like the only people there should be, um, business people who want to actually cater to the customers they're serving. Like, I don't, if I don't, I mean, like, I don't love the business I have, but like, I don't hate the customers. Like, I don't, definitely not want them here. They're the lifeblood of the business. So it should be the same way in any venture, whether it be adult content or what have you. So that's
I think
odd.
it's like,
Yeah.
oh sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think it's similar to like the companies that, you know, when Pride Month comes around, they put all the rainbow stuff out there, but like they're just doing it for the money. They don't really care about supporting it, like any of these people. Like they're just in it um to show, like
To
they're
advertise.
doing it for the money, and yeah, and to advertise.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, in that vein, are either of you seeing, this is something specifically you two talked about for a bit, for a good bit on the last episode we were together. Um, are either of you seeing any examples of kink, fetish, or non-heteronormativity gaining prominence in, whether it be content, community, I guess any of the spaces where you feel kink, fetish, or heteronormativity has not been pushed or seen in previous times? Let me start with Jules.
I don't think so. Not in like, maybe I just haven't seen that media yet, or it's like I'm sure it's out there, but I would say that again, going back to childhood shows of mine, they re-brought Total Drama back into like the mainstream, and then they made a character that didn't last long because you knew that people wouldn't like the gag anymore, or because it's a joke and it's Canada, because we're very open to things without realizing we're very open to things. Like Canadian TV has pretty much made 99% of fetishists who they are today.
Very interesting.
But they well, okay, I'm just gonna talk about in general. If you look at any Canadian TV for when I was growing up, so you have Fresh TV, which is a Canadian animation studio who's responsible for making Totally Spies, Martin Mystery, 16, Total Drama, Stoked, and like that, or which would be, which a lot of our shows would be then bought and shown on like Cartoon Network. And I don't know about other places. I'm just talking about North America itself. A lot of people who are into like Giant Play or spandex goes to Totally Spies because their main characters would wear spandex suits, and had an episode where one of the characters was 50 feet tall, and that was the entire premise. And they were spies, so they were cool.
Totally Spies is
Martin
Canadian?
Mystery, yeah, it is.
Wow.
It was made and produced in Quebec.
Nice.
Then they did their sister show Martin Mystery, which was based off of a comic, but they turned this middle-aged man into like a teenager. And then you got your cool like horror bits where like monster people who are like really turned on by aliens probably got their stuff because again a lot of the alien models they use are like supernatural stuff were very attractive. And then you have the slice of life era, which was Stoked and 16 and Total Drama, which always had that one character who was super gassy, and it did not matter where they were open about it, they were upfront about it, they had like the best fun with it. They usually also had other quirks, like Jude from 16 just never bathed, so his whole thing was that like he never bathed to the point where like he no longer smells. So they had a whole episode playing with that. And then you had Stoked, which one character was nicknamed Ripper because of how gassy he was, and that was just who he was. Everyone's like, this dude farts a lot, and we accept that, and he's just an egotistical dick, but he's also like a really chill guy if you like don't go on his bad side. And then Total Drama gave both male and female people characters that trait, and I think just that growing up and being introduced to that would be like a lot of kink positive in just that regard, especially as they brought it back and they still kept a lot of their gags from that. So it's kind of like they're still like doing it, which is great because again, Total Drama as itself was always a parody of reality TV shows, and again, what a lot of people like about like Big Brother, Amazing Race, and Survivor is trying to find people be people, and a lot of the times just that is just people letting loose and showing that they're human. And I think even like celebrities now like burping in interviews and stuff and like not holding back is another way of people going, oh, they are like us, but also kind of normalizing it as well, being like, we're humans, we're going to do it anyways, like we're not perfect. But then also some people, I feel like if you look at how Posey, for example, knew his audience, so he hammed it up a bit more when he had to do it, and then like made it a bigger deal than it was to like kind of like show that like I know you're into it and I find it funny.
Absolutely.
But those are more examples from like the past because I haven't really seen anything newish other than I guess the most common fetishes being more into play. So like feet have been more pronounced in some shows. BDSM as a whole, I think, is getting better talked about, especially with bondage play. I think a lot of people are now getting into bondage because lockdown was very boring for everyone. So I think the pandemic really helped with people exploring that, and that's why a lot of more media is now being more experimental when it comes to that. Even some of the short stories that I've read from like my fellow classmates have been not really like kink based, but like very much exploring like the hard time, like the harshness of reality, but also what can make life like great within like little aspects of it.
Absolutely. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I do agree that I mean, I think your answer was great 100% too, because that is a lot of the where the changing of minds is going to happen. It is good to see. My example was going to be like movies like Renfield or What We Do in Shadows. I think some of these vampire themed content, which, I'm not huge on vampires, but the concepts of like familiars is really kind of introducing some people to like, not in the healthiest way, but like domination, like in terms of mental space, or being like someone's submissive in terms of that kind of attitude. And again, I'm not saying these are relationships to mimic, but they're at least putting some light on the relationship dynamics, the attitudes, the feelings, as it were, in a way that's not, in a way that's challenging. Traditional leave it to beaver type relationships, I guess. I don't have a better example, but it's showing other types of relationships, even between people that may not be romantic partners, such as like the vampires and their assistant, as it were, I guess. What about you, Dil? What about you? Have you seen or do you feel you've seen any examples of gaining prominence for kink, fetish, or just non heteronormativity in things you've seen around?
I think there is definitely, in terms of non-heteronormativity, that's definitely becoming more of a thing these days. Whereas, sorry, for example, in like new TV shows and stuff, there'll be like one like LGBT character, which wow. But saying that, it makes it sound like, oh, this we get one person we can relate to. But you know what? Like even in kid shows, it's like not being presented as the norm of like man and woman is the only thing. Um, in terms of like more kink stuff, I think what Jules was saying about the more common fetishes kind of getting more normalized. Like at this point, feet is not even a thing anymore. Like that's standard now. Like feet is vanilla. Like come on.
Okay, sorry. God, call me out. I thought we were friends.
No,
Paul.
that's not like that's not a jab at you. That's just like I feel like that's just how it is. It's like, oh, you're into feet, like great. You know what I mean? It's not a crazy out there thing anymore. Um, like and to the degree that like I can talk to people that I work with about that kind of stuff, and you know they can easily be like, oh yeah, I'd do that with a guy, or they'd be like, nah, sorry, I'd rather not do that kind of. And it's just like it's not an uncomfortable conversation, say, as compared to something like scat maybe, where it's like, ooh, we don't touch that. Like, you know what I mean?
Hey, we were all talking about feet, like respectable people over here.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, so to a degree, it's kind of seeping in. I'm reminded of that meme of like, I think it was on Tumblr ages back, where it's like, someone is like, oh, you guys don't understand. I'm very kinky. I'm into whips and chains and things like that. And then the other person is just kind of in their head being like, oh, um, yeah, where it's like, you know, even, yeah, BDSM type stuff isn't really, like, that's vanilla kink at this point. It's like, especially after 50 Shades of Grey was in its heyday, like, you know, all of a sudden everyone was into BDSM. Why are you laughing?
No, everyone's just really into BSM, you know. I just walk into like a school and I just see a class being taught on it. Everyone's just so into it.
I mean, those might be some fantasies. Like we don't need to go there right this moment. And maybe we can get off the call and talk about our fantasy school.
The you're like just on the topic. I'll get back to the other stuff, but like the whole school type farting fantasy, like I feel like that's such a huge thing. Like so many people are into that. It's crazy.
I wrote I wrote a story close to it and people were like loving it.
Like the whole idea of like the gassy teacher. Like I don't know where that comes from, but apparently it's a massive thing. Everyone loves it.
For sure. I mean, yeah. I mean, I would say. I mean, my theory is like power, because why I enjoy it. Like same with mother domination or whatever. It's a power thing. It's even for people who maybe don't like domination. I think there is still an appeal to power. I can't speak outside the domination aspect, but it may just be something that's more universally appealing in that way to have this this more adult figure, even if you're an adult yourself, but like this more adult teacher.
In terms of the fart fetish itself becoming more normalized, I am definitely seeing a lot more people who mainly make their content towards like whether it's foot stuff or domination stuff or just like you know, non-fart stuff basically. Um, I'm seeing a lot more of them kind of exploring this space and like making content geared towards us. There was a recent example, Nathan Wild, I think. Yeah, Nathan Wild. Who's like his main thing is that like he's got a really nice body and like a really big butt. Like that's his selling point. But he recently did a video of like him fighting on another guy and like it's like, whoa, like this is not what you're known for at all. But you are doing it, and like obviously you're doing it because most likely you've either seen other people doing it and like being successful with it, or someone from our space has gone to you and being like, can you please do this? And he was open to it. And the fact that he was open to it, like, says something about, like, where we're going. But yeah, in terms of kinks being more accepted in the general media, I haven't really seen as much progress, I guess, happening there.
For sure. I would probably agree. I can't think of any, like I said, the general kink of like the BDSM aspects or domination, mental, dom sub aspects of like Renfield or other vampire and probably other movies as well. But yes, the fetish specific. I think we'll get there. I think we're right on the cusp of this, especially as I'm not tooting this show's horn, but like as this show gets discovered by more creators, I do feel like there will be some more, and it's not, again, not a result of the show, but maybe it's a empathetic or sympathetic view or whatever. Maybe it's a realization that it exists at all. Maybe it's like the perfect plot point for something. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but the point is, we may see coverage of fetish things as this gets into the more mainstream minds. As we already seen the negative in one way of I don't remember the name of the podcast. That's how little I cared. But basically had, I don't know if it was all 2 hours or at least 30 minutes of coverage of this podcast, and specifically, unfortunately, picking on Victoria and Amy Farts, which I really took most offense to. Not specifically because of them, but I think it's one thing to pick on the host and the producer of the show. And some things, why do I say the intro is over? It's a dumb thing, but they could have just left it at making fun of stupid things like that. But to pick on the attitudes and the normalization that Amy's fighting for, and just anything really. I didn't listen to the whole thing, but I listened to enough to know they had no respect for this fetish, for us, for anybody that's been on the show. And I can't force them. I can't make them. But I definitely feel like they should have kept that their views to themselves. And that's a view Victoria shared as well. But this is inevitable. This was definitely going to happen, and we keep fighting because those people don't matter, and we keep fighting for the future we feel is right, and the future that we feel. I don't think there's any other better way to say it. The future that we feel is right. There was something we maybe it was earlier. We talked about it earlier in the interview, but I feel like something one of you just mentioned too reminded me of this, tipped me off to this. Is have either of you experimented making some kind of fetish art or fetish content, something fetish related or sex related, I guess, in the AI or VR or some kind of other tool space? Let's start with Jules.
I love the AI character model where you can talk to fictional characters. I have done a lot of just fucking around in that and see like how much I can go until I break it. I've broken a few AI bots from just being me. I've also tried to use the AI that Snapchat has, but if you bring up farts in any way that's not in a humorous way, it does tell you that that AI does not support doing this in a sexual or fetish way. We do not talk about fetishes in my AI programming, which I found funny. And I also AI stories are just really poorly written, but they're so funny that I went through like 6 different uh styles with like the same characters just to see how bad it could get, and they just kept getting worse. But no, I think AI is just a fun thing to do if you're bored. But if you really want to like have like a thing with like a fictional character that you really do like, I really do suggest doing AI character, because it just gives you that opportunity to like, even if you just want to talk to it and just make it and just have it like feel robotic, but like it's still like you're talking to that person. It is really nice, and it can be a really fun time if done right.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. I definitely feel like character AI is one of the strongest of the of the AI, at least in terms of understanding. Even like I've fed the AIs I've created a limited greeting, or at least a greeting that leads to fetish activity or whatever that I enjoy, and they can run with it pretty well. Add a level of human intelligence that surprises me in many cases. I've even started using some of them to write captions because I've felt what do you call it? Similar to the way I feel about stories. I feel like I'm like, this is I'm writing the same thing over and over. So it's kind of nice to have the freshness. And I'm not saying like AI, write the caption for me. I'm just kind of doing a role play with the AI and then taking the pieces I want and putting it as a caption. It's really because I find it really hot myself, really arousing. So I figured, I can put this to again, sometimes AI generated images and you know, other people can enjoy something of the feeling that I enjoy. What about you, Dill? Have you had any experimentation with any of these newfangled tool? I don't know why I wanted to say it like that, but these new tools in the AI or VI or VR or any kind of tech space?
Yes, but like I wouldn't even say it's like substantial enough to the point where I can even say I've dabbled in it, because it's not even to the level of dabbling. It's just like, oh, I tried it once and it was fun. In terms of like the character chat type thing, um, I have definitely seen it become like that kind of thing become a lot more prominent, and some people like really really enjoy it, and they will do all sorts of role play type stuff with their characters, and they will promote it on Twitter and everything, and just being like, hey, go talk to this bot, this AI bot, this character, and it's like, oh, like, they'll realistically do all your role play fantasies and all of that. I think it's such an interesting development in this space. And I think in the art space as well, I'm seeing a lot more people kind of using AI generated art, um, for to create like this kind of stuff, like for the fetish space. Um, Not that I necessarily agree with that in itself, because I know it's a very like hot topic debate kind of thing happening right now of like, is it ethical even, because of the whole stealing thing, and yeah, I know it's a thing right now and people seem to enjoy it. Sometimes I find it, AI art specifically, just a little bit creepy, because like they still don't get everything fully right just yet. We're very quickly getting there. But yeah, sometimes it's a little bit off-putting when it's like you can see, oh, you've got too many fingers, kind of thing. But yeah, it's definitely a thing that's happening right now in our space.
For sure. I feel like I'm going to talk to you in 6 months. You're going to be like, actually, I made my own AI model. I've trained it on my videos or whatever, and now I don't know. I'm not like I don't know the end of that sentence, but like, uh, like you're talking about OnlyFans in the past. I feel like you do have an embrace of things that come forward in due time as well. So maybe that is in the cards for you in the future, or maybe not. I don't
Like
know.
I feel like if I could, because here's the thing, if it's my content, if I could
Mm.
like train AI to like make content for me and it looks realistic enough, sure, I would use that. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like then it's less work for me. Um,
Well, and imagine like I mean, and again, I'm not trying to think of ideas, but I feel like the idea of that would be literally like someone could you have this this dill model, this OnlyFans dill model that people essentially put in their fantasy and it generates the video based on your whatever and your voice or whatever you involve yourself with, um to their specifications. Like again, what does that say for an actual creator or creator economy? I'm not sure, but the technology still impresses me regardless, and I feel like that could be a possibility in the future.
I think in terms of the technological development, like it's going so fast, so quickly. Like it used to be, wow, these pictures are really creepy. Then we got to the point where it's like, oh my god, they can do fingers now. Um, and then,
It
and
sounds
then,
silly, I know, but yeah, it is where we are in life. Oh my god, fingers!
And look, it used to be like you could almost tell straight away. It still is like 90% of the time you can tell straight away, oh, this is AI.
Sure.
But there have been times where it's like it took me a little while to be like, oh, this isn't like human made, but like it looks so realistic that you as a person yourself, you're tricked. Um and like, did you guys see that Will Smith spaghetti thing?
Yes.
No, I did not.
Oh please,
Very,
that was
very,
like
very hard to watch.
It's very hard to watch. I actually had a nightmare about it.
Oh no!
Yeah, like I was so like it was terrifying for me. But then it's like we had that and like AI generated video, and now like I'm seeing a lot of like AI generated movie trailers. Like there was that Great Gatsby one, which you can like there are still things that are very off. It's like the person has two elbows or something, and like no one has hands because they can't do hands, right? But it's like the rest of it looks like relatively okay. Um, and it's got the voiceover and everything, and it's like we very quickly moved from creepy Will Smith to almost passable type movie trailer. It's like how much longer until like we're at the point where we just can't tell anymore, and everything is done this way.
It's very true. I mean, and I was gonna say we were talking about video, but like the in terms of the speed, like an AI, I remember the article just came out that an AI won a photo competition. The artist refused to take credit, obviously, because I mean, obvious. I don't know why it's obvious, but he refused to take credit. But it was an AI generated image that won a photography competition. So it is tricking obviously expert people and people who should not should know better. That's not the right terminology, but it's tricking experts. It is that good that it is becoming difficult for people who are trained in this type of forgery or whatever, that they are now becoming not aware of when it is AI and when it is a human doing a photograph.
Yeah, exactly. And it's in a way it's kind of scary, but in a way it's like we are heading this way anyway, so we kind of have to learn how to make the best of it, or we
Adapt.
have to learn how to adapt. And like is there the potential for like exploitation and for things to get a lot worse? Yes, definitely. Is that very likely going to happen? Yes, I think so.
It's never stopped us before. That's the end of that. I feel the end of that phrase is it's like, even though it's like the internet, internet, we had spam running rampant, and there's still spam, but it's more handled than it used to be. Lots of things, a lot more scams, lots more whatever. The Nigerian prince scam always being a joke favorite. Like the internet's not obviously a safe place, but it's safer than it was when the internet was new. And I think AI and AI generated art will probably be follow that same path for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of I feel for the actual artists. Like I know artists. One of my closest friends within the fetish space even is an artist himself. And it's just like what. Even myself as a content creator, like what becomes of us at that point? And it's kind of hard to grapple with that idea of like, oh, we're useless now.
I don't think that's going to be the case, but I definitely I share the concern, because I'm not going to be it's not like I'm going to be spared should this happen. But But I think there will be a place for people. I don't know in the long term, like beyond our lifetimes and many other lifetimes, I'm sure. I think AI will be something for the next generation of people, or maybe the next iteration of existence, the next generation of being, as it were. I don't know. I'm speaking outside of some kind of sci-fi, whatever. But I don't think we're gonna be like replaced in short order, I suppose. I think, and especially those who can adapt and those who are using the technology to work for them rather than work rather than work without it, I suppose, because I think it will be you know what, it's going to become the norm. Honestly, I honestly believe that people working with AI in some capacity, whether consciously or unconsciously, it will be the norm, whether it's their Google or their Bing has chat GPT elements within it, or whatever maybe Photoshop will have generative capabilities with AI. Maybe all these things are very possible that AI will just become ubiquitous in a way that we don't have to go to a specific AI website. And I think that's very, very possible. Jules, you mentioned earlier some actually quite a bit of the media from your youth that had farts in it. So I'm going to jump to Dil first. Maybe there's some you haven't covered, but Dil, are there any shows from back in the day from your youth that you remember that perhaps had this flatulent content or sort of hinting maybe fetish wise towards content in stuff you've watched?
Yes. Like, but I think as a kid watching that kind of stuff, it completely goes over your heads. Like I love Totally Spies, Martin Mystery. I didn't watch Martin Mystery as much, but like, I still watched it. Oh my god, they did a crossover episode one time. That was like, whoa, mind blown.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, right, you're right. And like, yeah, in fact, I saw a list recently on Twitter of like the list of the Totally Spies episodes and which fetish it was kind of promoting. Have you seen that?
I don't think I read into that list, but I saw video essays about it.
Oh, okay, yeah, right. So yeah, that show comes to mind. Uh, Fairly Odd Parents had like some fetishy type elements. The one show that like sticks out straight away, Gogs. Do we remember that?
Mm-mm.
So,
No.
I'm not sure like where it was produced or anything, but basically it was this claymation show about this caveman family, and like a lot of their type humor. They did have some like relatively highbrow humor in there, but like a lot of it was like toilet humor as well. Um, uh, and like all the bodily functions was there. Um, yeah, yeah, but like apart from that, it's like all the stuff that Jules mentioned. It's like, yeah, that's the thing. That's Canada.
Well, that is the thing, Jules. I mean, the sheer amount of shows you mentioned, like I could think of, I never saw it, but I know the Hey Arnold Phoebe farting thing happened. I don't think I was out of Hey Arnold by that time. But obviously the one that stuck with me the most, and I think I mentioned it on Master Jaden's episode, is the Angry Beavers, which even included like subtle domination elements, or like I don't know, farting as a threat, I guess, elements, as it were. Do you have any shows that you feel like you haven't mentioned among the list of shows that you did mention that explored this or explored that themes of it?
I think I have some live action shows that I really liked as a kid, but I wouldn't state one by also having a fun story about when I was like 12 in it. 'Cause I just think back to this conversation I had with my father, and it's just so bizarre that he brought it up. So during my Disney Channel era of being a child, I was obsessed with, like everyone else in my generation, with was really played as Hannah Montana, Sweet Love Zach and Cody, but it was Hannah Montana at this point. And there was this episode where Billy Ray Cyrus's character looks around and makes sure no one's around, and then farts, and then his children walk in. And it was my favorite episode as a kid. And then my father looked at me because he's like, it's time for bed, I'm like, not to my episode. And my dad looks at me dead eye at like 12 and goes, do you have a fart fetish or something? And I'm like, no. What is that? I'm 10, I'm 12. What the fuck? But a lot of Disney Channel shows at that time had that type of humor in it. Like Sweet Love Zach and Cody had that with Zach as the character, and then when they did Sweet Love on Deck, they had a character that was just there to be gross, and that was his whole thing, was that he could, after eating a Mexican buffet, he could fart the entire song of Stairway to Heaven, and that was his trait. But no, I think Disney, if you were really into, I think Disney more than Nickelodeon at that time. But then Nickelodeon also had Ned's Declassified with their character that was just a character named Timmy Toot because he was just known for just ripping silent farts and then running away and then having everyone else get blamed for it.
I don't remember that show that well, but I do. It came up on TV occasionally, and I do remember that.
So it's like for me.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No.
To just jump in here.
No.
Like it's like I remember all these shows, but like and this is the thing. It's like so ubiquitous. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Ubiquitous.
Yeah.
Sorry. To the point where it's like you can't even tell that. But like it's just the comic relief character being like the gassy gross one, or like it's just such a trope that it's like you don't even think about it as like a thing, because it's like, yes, I watched Zack and Cody, I watched Ned's Declassified, I watched all of them, and it's like and now thinking about it, it's like, yeah, yes, right, of course, definitely this was a thing. but it, the comic relief character trope, gassy or like disgusting one, is you kind of just assume that, like, of course this character has to be there because like that's their role within the show to be this one. There's that whole meme of like, in the next episode we present to you the writer's barely disguised fetish.
I mean, that's the whole thing of media, though, is that people want other people to be into it, so you have to find ways of showing it. But then lately, like especially in a episode of Total Drama Rama, where it was literally about a fart sniffing fairy where he lived based off farts. So there's a whole montage of this fairy sniffing like preschoolers' gas, and that was the entire premise of the episode, which I think is a little too far on that front.
Yeah, that's a bit too far. Dan Schneider with his whole foot thing, that's a bit too far. Like,
I think if you're going to do it in kids media, doing it like in a tongue-in-cheek way is fine, but if you want to go like hardcore into it, like make an adult show, have a character like express that they're into it, and like show like safe ways of practicing it.
Yeah, it's very
that's
oh yeah, go ahead.
Very logical.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate.
I agree.
The American figure of kind of putting not face to fetishes, but putting like fetishes in children's shows is such a heinous, or I don't know enough about it to maybe say heinous, but a very negative figure. But yes, I do agree that I was even gonna maybe empathize or sympathize with the idea that, I mean, imagine being a writer in this kind of high pressure environment where you are required to probably write a lot of shows in a short amount of time. I think that's probably also what leads to writers maybe digging from their life and their life experience, because the sheer desire or the sheer demand of needing content on a immediate basis, I think probably fuels some of the ideas that are maybe like people who maybe don't have the fetish, but like, why did they do that? Why that? And then people who do have the fetish is like, yes, this is exactly what I wanted. Jules, you talked about it a little bit as well on this. So let me jump to Dil on this question. Are there any new or new to you creators that you've been enjoying right now? Anyone you'd want to shout out or point people towards? Do not mention your OnlyFans again, Dil. No, you can. Please do. Actually, please do.
I wasn't going to, for your information.
That's for the end. That's for the
Um,
end, the outro.
New people. Look, that Nathan Wild guy I mentioned before, like, I hope he does more stuff within our space, like, come over to the dark side. Like, you got all the goods. I will, like, you know, I will. He's Australian. Oh my god. You know, I will meet you. Do you know what I mean?
We'll do a collab on my OnlyFans, you know?
Nice.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if he's open to that kind of stuff, definitely. I feel like he's way out of my league, though, but he seems like a nice guy. There is a new guy. Well, I've known him for a while, but he's only recently made a Twitter at fartistry_90. He's got some good stuff. Of course, I have to give a big shout out to my friend Kink Hero, artist friend, amazing guy, very nice.
Love his work.
Right, he's so good. He drew a picture of me, like
I know. I
Nice.
was so happy. It was so like I wish I could. I want to be his friend.
he's really like he's not like I feel like he's like me in the sense of like he'll be friends with anyone as long as you are a decent person and like don't be creepy and none of this WYD, like don't do that.
CYA.
Who else?
RN.
Like all the people. Let me just go through all the people I talked to. Be like, you need to follow this person. The farting.
I don't think we have 3 hours to have you do that.
Nice guy. Tyler. Everyone like very popular. Raunch Slob. He seems nice.
I'm sorry, are you accepting an Oscar right now? Like, what's happening? No, I really, you know what? I make fun, but it is awesome to have that sense of community where, you know, shouting out just good people in the community. And obviously, yeah, that no, continue. I apologize.
Look, these people, like, I don't talk to that. Like, I could literally, like, list off all the people I've had any kind of interaction with, but I'm not going to do that. If you've talked to me and you're a nice guy, then I've probably let you know that you're a nice guy. You don't need me to tell you on this podcast. But yeah, that's it. That's it for me.
Nice. What about Jules? What? Yeah, no. What about Jules? What is your thought, Jules? What have you I forgot the question. Oh, what are there any other creators that you're new to you that you're enjoying right now that you haven't mentioned or that you'd like to re-shout out right now?
Well, to start off, I have to shout out my good friend Dil. You should support his OnlyFans.
Damn it! I didn't think of that. All right, continue.
But no, a couple of some of the European people that I don't talk. Well, I talked to some. Again, their content's really good. So Master Dom has really fun content. He does more than just farting stuff, but he's just super chill. If you listen to any of like his spaces on Twitter, Master Max is literally the best person you'll ever find. These are not new people, but Master Max is just such a fun dude. Like he's just so chill and so loving, and he just makes it fun. Sebastian Cash, honestly, if you're going to support anyone, you should support him. I don't know his name.
Literally, I'm gonna message him right now. Like, he's not much of a nice guy.
There's this. He was up for award against Sebastian Cash for like best fetish creator.
Damn,
Uh,
nice.
I will find him later and I'll send it to you to like shout out or something. But he will do any type of request, and he goes, yeah, I'll do that. Just give me a couple days, and every video that he sells is $20. That's it. You subscribe to his OnlyFans once, you don't pay again, and you still get access to every video he releases. He also puts that on clips for sale as well, in case you don't want to buy it on OnlyFans. But like, man's great. Sir Brett's really cool. King BJ is actually such a cool dude, and the way that he got into the space is actually so like heartwarming and endearing. Because I just asked him one day how he got it, and it was just like such a nice, like heartwarming story. Devilish on TikTok's a really cool dude. We've been talking for the last couple days. Um, I think the people that like I follow are like very known in the community, or like friends that I have that just started posting content that I don't want to shout out because as much as I love them as a person, their internet presence is a little bit too please notice me vibes. But yeah, stay away from anyone who literally states that they're a cat. Like, stay away from like Master Fiego because he's an asshole. Um,
This is good. No,
and
this
like
is good
that
information
whole
too.
group. Because he's one of those people where it's like he'll be nice to you until like you actually like do something, and then he's like, "No, I want you to do more." And I'm like, I know that like there's people into that, but you can like fuck off with that attitude. Like he will give like he's not going to scam you, but like the attitude to me is just a put off. Um, I think most okay if you're into fandom, like go for it. I'm not. That's not my thing. Like I will like I'll buy things from people that I like. That's just how I support creators. Like whatever, but the minute that you start like disrespecting your audience, I'm done. And that's a lot of the upcut, like as we already talked about. But a lot of that group of people, the ones that just started in like the last 6 or 7 months, I usually try to avoid those people because unless they're like earnest about it, they're not worth your time.
No, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense indeed. Um, we are coming. We are going to be at 3 hours, but that's okay because this has really been an enjoyable conversation. It always is, but it's always enjoyable to have both of you on and hearing your perspectives and really some of your growth as well. I mean, maybe you I don't know if either you feel like you've grown between the last episode or not, but I definitely feel like you have from an outside perspective. I think the viewers would think that as well. And I'm not saying like, "Oh yeah, you guys are growing. Good for you." Like it's just we all grow as people all the time. And I think it's just cool to see that progression in people and you two being the guests that have been on the show, this being the third time, I definitely get to be illustrative of that growth for as long as you'd like to be, because you definitely do have great and interesting and entertaining opinions, and I think we all have a good time together, and I'm pretty sure the viewers, the listeners, do as well. Um, so as I come to a close, I want to ask a question I've been asking on other shows, but I don't think I've asked either of you on our interviews together. Is Do you enjoy having this fetish? What do you feel about it on a more broad basis, and what makes you enjoy it if you do? Does it do something for you that you feel perhaps other kinks don't? Let me jump to Dill on this one to start with.
Do I enjoy having this fetish? Yes. Yes, 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 yes. Um, I I think it, as difficult as it can be sometimes, especially in terms of like having to explain it to people, um, it just adds a layer of fun to your sexuality that like wouldn't be there otherwise. Um, and it's like I can enjoy vanilla stuff as well, but having this on top of that, or like even just doing the fart stuff, like I don't know, I just really enjoy it. Like it's this is my sexuality. Like this is what I'm into. Um, and yeah, so I definitely enjoy having it. I can't imagine not having it. Would I want to get rid of it? I don't think so. Like it's as crazy as it sounds. Like I've met so many amazing people through it. I've gotten to travel to lots of like I would have had without it I wouldn't have had a lot of experiences that I have had. And so in that sense, I'm grateful for it. Is it difficult? Yes. Like, you know, I acknowledge that it would be so much easier um if I didn't have it. Like, things will be so much more easier to follow the law. But like, that's in the same sense that life would be easier for me if I was a straight white rich man. Do you know what I mean?
Of course.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I do enjoy having it. Like, it adds depth, it adds fun to my life that wouldn't be possible through other ways, and I met amazing people and done amazing things that I wouldn't have otherwise if I didn't have this. So yeah.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. That's a great perspective and a great positive outlook and experience, I suppose, as well. Jules, what about you? What do you feel in terms of this fetish and in enjoying it and those type of attitudes?
I feel like if you asked me this like a couple months ago, I would have said no, but I do really enjoy having this. I feel like I feel like because I have this, I have a much better bond with my friends, especially those who are like just cool with it. Especially one that thanked me for even sharing it with him because he was like, now we're even closer than before. And the fact that you felt like you could trust me with this information just means the world to me. Yeah, I feel like this fetish has made me be more open and more aware of the people around me, and even and just another aspect of me to that I started to accept later on in my 25 years of life. Also, non-fetish response. If you have a chance to go to a cat cafe, please go to a cat cafe. They're really, really fun.
How long have you been holding that in? That, I mean, obviously 3
Oh,
hours, I guess.
I really wanted to bring it up.
I'm glad you did. I'm very glad you did. I've not been to a cat cafe, but I have passed a couple of pet stores and there are cats in the window, and I would love to be with. I mean, I have a cat. I own a cat, but yes, I imagine being at a cat cafe with the cats would be a tremendous time and a lot of fun to even if they weren't interacting with you, which I would obviously prefer, but if just watching the cats and yeah, just having them probably try to steal your food.
I just really like cats, okay? It was a very nice time.
I'm glad. I'm so glad. I'm glad. We now know. We now know the way to get to Jules is through the cats.
Yes.
So,
You know, they say
Yeah.
the way to a man's heart is through his cats.
they do say that. My final question. I'm gonna be sad to be concluding with you, but I'm sure we will talk again, whether online, offline, in all forms, and perhaps telepathically as well. But do you have
Definitely telepathically.
I enjoy that. That's my favorite. I enjoy it. Well, I'll be telepathing with you right after this.
I'll see you in your dreams. It's fine. I'll do
Ooh.
some dream hopping.
Oh, we're getting it back into that mode again. Okay. Do you I have asked you this, but I was curious if it's updated for either of you, or if you have new thoughts on the future of this fetish, whether it be for yourself or the fetish at large. Let me jump to Jules first.
I see from the spaces that I've been in, I see a lot of people learning how to be human with the fetish, which is very nice. Less creeps than there used to be a couple of months ago, which is a great feat. I see it becoming more accepting later on, but I also, because of the more allies that we have, I can see a lot more people just accepting that like people are people and people like things, and like why not celebrate all aspects, and I can see that coming to being within the next few years.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I agree. I think acceptance is is maybe closer than it may feel or appear. What about you, Dill? What are your new, if any, thoughts on the future for of the fetish for yourself or the community or the fetish at large?
I think in general, like we were talking about before, we're going to start seeing a lot more of AI stuff and like technology kind of taking on technology as a creator rather than technology as a medium to share the creations, which is more so what it currently is. Um, and yes, I would agree with Jules in that, like, definitely people. What was it I was saying before? People are being less awful nowadays, something like that. Um, that's that seems to be happening as well. Like fewer creeps. There are definitely still creeps out there though. But it's it's like less and less, less and less. Like people are realizing that it's like we shouldn't be harassing people to make content or whatever. And like if, for example, there are people that aren't into it, that just enjoy making content for the fun of it. Like let's not go and harass them and creep them out to scare them off or whatever. Like that's not right. So yeah, uh, I feel like more and more people are kind of accepting fetishes in general and like realizing that, oh, I can have a kink for anything and like it's okay unless it's children. um but like like people are being more open to the ideas of like sexuality in general, and I think yeah, we're gonna
Nice.
start seeing more people kind of entering the community and like being a part of it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think I don't know if it is self-awareness, but it sounds to me like self-awareness. The gaining self-awareness within many members of the community, I think, is a benefit to us all. Benefit to those people as well. That obviously, I think the first person that's going to gain from our own self-awareness is us. The person that's gaining self-awareness. The next person that's going to gain is everyone else. But it's just as important in many ways because it's what I talk about in terms of what we were saying about the manosphere. It is society that's waiting for the idea of a man to not be so rigid. In the same way, it's waiting for it's waiting for these attitudes to be more flexible and more accepting and more open, really. I think that's really what we're all kind of shooting for, and each of us in our own way are trying to push for normalization in whatever way possible. I'm the only two that come to mind, obviously everyone with an OnlyFans. You got Amy with the YouTube, this show, and I'm sure there are other people doing other things as well. If not now, they will. And that's, I think, what it takes. That's what it's going to take to make a change and make things again go in towards a world we think we want to see, and the world we think maybe deserve is not the right word, but I think the world we think we want to see. But I cannot thank you both enough for taking the time to and the interest to come on once again and spend 3 hours with me talking about this stuff, getting into some serious topics, having some fun. Really, it is awesome. It is really always a great time to talk with both of you. I will, though, of course, open it up to you each to tell people how to find you wherever you are. Dill, why don't you go first about wherever you want people to find you? Obviously, if you don't want them to find you, then don't say it. But yeah, whatever socials or what have you, whatever venues you'd like people to see you on or meet you on.
Whatever socials, as if I haven't mentioned it 50 times already.
No, I don't know your socials, man. What are your socials?
On on Twitter, you can find me at Stinky. That's Stinky with 3 Y's, DJ. And it's the same thing on OnlyFans. Subscribe to my OnlyFans. Feel free to message me, DM me, whatever. Just please, like, be non-creepy, be kind, and like give me a bit more than WYD, okay?
No, only message him that. That has to be the
You
first
will only be
response to
spammed
every
this
message.
now. This is only what people are going to send you now, and this is your curse. I'm sorry.
But you know what? If you're gonna do that, at least be like, let me know that you're joking. Like, be WYD and then
Yes.
send me the side eyes emoji or something like that. That way I know that like you're doing it for fun. That's me.
What about you, Jules? Where can people get a hold of you if they'd like to?
If you want to read some of my very light, easy reading fetish stories that I started writing, you can find that on DeviantArt under Tallyfan2313, I believe is my username on that. If you want to message me, which only a few people did, and I was really sad. I was really looking forward to those movie top lists, but I never got them. You can find me at JulesKnight23. And this podcast question is, who's your favorite content creator and why is it not Dil?
Oh no! Oh no! After the promotion earlier, now it's the reverse.
And if you want to find me on TikTok, I don't post anything. But if you want to talk to me there, because Twitter's too scary, you can find me there. Also, as Jules Knight, I'm pretty much there on anything. Just please don't find my Instagram. That's private.
Very good. Don't even look. It's not there. It does not exist.
It doesn't-
Actually,
it
he
does
didn't
not-
mention
no,
it.
I just deleted it. Actually, I have no friends.
Perfect. It is always a delight to be with both of you, and individually, together, it doesn't matter. But together is it a special? I guess that works. And a special delight, I suppose. I look forward to doing it again soon. I look forward to hearing of your travels, whether they be virtual or in real life, OnlyFans or school. I don't know. I got nothing. But anyways, whatever you do, wherever you are, definitely keep in touch. Let us know what's going on. And again, thank you for being on the show today, and we will see you again next time.
Thank you for having us. It was a pleasure to talk again, and I'm sure we'll be back soon enough.
I have no life. If you want a co-host, I can do mostly everything.
Nice.
I can get a soundboard. We can actually have scary music playing when Dil brings up his OnlyFans. It's fine.
That's true.